You are live, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, James. Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for October 27th, 2021. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next thing on our agenda is our roll call, and I'd ask Noreen if you could do the roll call for me, please.
Chairman Payne,
Here.
Commissioner Claffey,
Here.
Commissioner Fox,
Here.
Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Linares,
Here.
Commissioner Sobieski,
Here.
Commissioner Woods,
Here.
Commissioner Braverman, Commissioner Gill, Commissioner Haggerty.
Haggerty's here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. I think everything is all set on the agenda. If I'm not mistaken, there's no changes on the agenda. Correct, Renata?
No changes, Mr.
Okay, very good. The next thing on our agenda is public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Within your Zoom application, please raise your hand if you'd like to participate during the public participation. If calling into Zoom meeting by telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand to be recognized. Use *6 when recognized to speak by telephone. State your name and address for the record, please. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak?
We have two individuals. I have first listed Mark Pasacantando, I believe it is.
Okay.
Point of clarification, opposition entitled to 3 minutes, sir?
This is for items not on the agenda. If there's this is not for the petition 42-21.
Culver Road development?
Yeah, there'll be, that's later on in our agenda. This public participation right now is about other things that aren't on the agenda, and it's not on Culver. You will have an opportunity to speak later in the meeting.
Okay, very good. My misunderstanding. I apologize.
No problem.
Next individual is listed as Bruce.
Okay.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Yes, 24 Cortland Way, Newington.
Go right ahead.
Yes, is this the part of the meeting that is talking about the subdivision that will abut Deming Street?
I'm sorry. This public participation, as I stated, was for items not listed on the agenda. There is an area later in the meeting, which we will, when we get into petition 42-21, where you'll have an opportunity to speak, okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak about items not listed on the agenda?
I have nobody indicating, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next thing on our agenda is remarks by commissioners. Before I go there, I just want to let you know that I take my role as chairman very seriously, and I care about this commission acting in the proper manner. And I don't appreciate people sending out misinformation which accuses me or this commission of being political, which is absolutely not true. I'm sure my fellow commissioners would agree. Politics has no place in the Newington Town Planning and Zoning Board. So I just wanted to make that clear to everybody. And now I'll go to remarks by commissioners. Is there any commissioners that have remarked? Commissioner, or my Vice Chairman Claffey, please.
Quick question, just to not do it later. I know we have a remarked by Commissioner later, which might be full of other stuff, but this is for Eric. I want to let you know, I think you're doing a great job in a ZEO position. I've seen some great improvement of things that I kind of got out of hand with, the past year and a half. It's been difficult for you to get in contact with people, but I want to give you a shout out that I've seen a great improvement with properties around town, even some within our own buildings that the town runs. I just want to give you that before we get into this deep dive in this meeting tonight. So I appreciate all your work and also Renato's work as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any remarks? Okay, if there's no other remarks from commissioners, our first public hearing, before we go into the public hearing, I'll ask Commissioner Havens if you could read the procedures for our public hearing, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Procedures for public hearings. Order of proceedings of public hearings shall be as follows. A, convening by the chairman. B, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or a commissioner designated by the chairman to act in his stead. C, identification and location of the property involved by the town planner. D, statement of the issue to be considered by the chairman or the town planner. E, presentation by applicant, limited to 20 minutes unless a specific extension is granted by the chair. F, persons wishing to speak in favor of the application, limited to 2 minutes per person. G, persons wishing to speak in opposition to the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. H, rebuttal by the applicant, limited to 5 minutes total. I, rebuttal by the opposition, limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, it shall be within the discretion of the chairman whether the time limitations should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any such variance. In no case shall an extension be for more than 20% the allotment indicated above, or 1 minute, whichever is greater.
Very good. Thank you very much. Our first petition is petition 42-21, a zone map change from R20 to PD zone at 35, 65, 67, 69 Culver Street and 258 Deming Street. Applicant AR Building Company Incorporated, owner RD3 LLC, and Gene S. Heltner. Contact Bongiovanni Group Incorporated, Alan Bongiovanni. And this was continued from 10/13/2021. This was left open because we felt that it was important to get some additional public comments and also to get some additional information from the applicant. So I'll ask the applicant to start the process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Alan Bongiovanni. I'm a licensed land surveyor in the state of Connecticut. I'm representing AR Building Company in the application before you for change of zone for 258 Deming Street, 65 Culver Street, portions of 35 and 69 Culver Street, from the existing R20 zone to the PD zone. In total, we're asking for 14.3 acres of R20 zoned land to be rezoned to the PD zone. And with that, if you look on the screen, I've got our area zone change map, which depicts the properties starting at the corner of Deming Street, small triangular property, 258 Deming Street, 65 Culver Street, and 69 Culver Street, as well as 35 Culver Street, excuse me. We're requesting the commission change the zone to match the existing zone that is just to the west of this property. property at 35 Culver Street is actually bisected by the zone line. The western half of the property, or a little more than half the property, is already in the PD zone. The eastern half of the property is in the R20 zone. 65 Culver Street is entirely in the R20 zone. And then 69 Culver Street is partially in the R20 zone and the western section in the PD zone. I'm going to limit our comments and our presentation to the application at hand, and that's a zone change. I know historically or traditionally in town, we've submitted applications for zone change on various projects, and we've always filed companion applications for a site plan and or special permit if required. And the purpose of that was always to demonstrate to the commission what the intent of the developer is for the property. We had done that at our last meeting, consistent with the way we've done it in the past. But many of those issues are not to be considered tonight. This is purely to change the zone for these pieces of property because we feel that's the most appropriate zoning for the piece. I'm going to use a diagram here, the Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission zoning map. I've got on the screen, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom in the area in question. And I think this does a good job to explain how the properties are zoned today, how they got to be in these current zones, and why we feel it's appropriate to change the zone for these 4 pieces of property. The subject property is in the center of the screen. It's that light, I'll call it tannish color. It's the 4 properties, 258, portion of 35, 65, and portion of 69. Everything in the orange to the left is in the PD zone. That includes Costello Industrial Park to the southeast, the Lowe's Shopping Center to the southwest, Lowe's Shopping Center to the west. To the north would be Staples and Walmart. And then to the east, we've got residential design development, which includes the Candlewick development, Cambridge Arms Apartments. There is a section of R20 land that the town owns as open space. And then the purple land in this area is the Apple Hill development, which is in the RP residential plan, which is not even in our regulations today. It's shown on the map, but there are no methods of rezoning properties today to the RP zone. And then immediately adjacent to the south is the Cobblestone Court development, condominiums again in the RP zone. In the mid to late 60s, everything west of Culver Street was in the R20 zone. Everything from the town line in Rocky Hill to the south, all along Rocky Hill, all the way up to Griswoldville Avenue and the land to the north, which is now some of that is the DOT property where the DOT headquarters are. Everything else to the east was in the PD zone, with the exception of the portions of what was the Haltner farm that we're asking for a zone change today. In the late 60s, what was the Ryan farm was master planned in the RP district or the RD district to allow different types of housing, a little housing diversity for the future development of the town. And what happened was you've got the Cambridge Arms Apartments, which were built adjacent, immediately across the street from us. We've got the Candlewick single family subdivision was built as an open space subdivision. And then to the west end of that, you've got the Highgate Apartments or the Landmark Apartments at Highgate Road, again, which is high density. So the commission sought to create a different type of environment, different type of zoning, so that we get various types of housing to meet the needs of the Newington residents. After that was changed, and that was done in the late 60s and early 70s, the next property that was developed was Cortland Way or Apple Hill. That piece of property was developed in about 300 units of apartments and condominiums at the time when the RP development was available as a zoning option. The property immediately to the south mid to late 90s, was developed into condominiums. The zone was changed, I believe, from the R20 zone that abuts it on the north and the south to the RP zone. And then if you look at the properties to the south, you've got Adam Drive, and you've got the 2 apartment and condominium complexes on Webster Street. So you've got a delineation between the planned development zone on the Berlin Turnpike, high to higher density zoning in the purple, and that continues into the light blue where you have the Cambridge Arms apartment. The property in question that we're asking for change is R20. It is our least dense zoning in the town of Newington. It's a half-acre zone for single-family homes. When the town plan commission made the changes from R20 to allow this master planning of Candlewick, the Candlewick development, the Apple Hill development, the Cobblestone development, they set a precedent. They set a path for what was going to happen in this area. And that the R20 zone left in the middle, the subject of our application, was never addressed because it never came before the commission. It was an active farm till recent memory and would be handled at a later date. Well, this is that date. If the commission was going to zone this piece of property today on their own, irrespective of any application, they'd look at it at the existing uses around the property. We have PD zone to the west. We have high density housing to the east and to the south, and PD zone to the north. This is not what you would call the opportune location to put our least dense housing, our largest single family residential lots. It should be something compatible with and transitional between the uses in the PD zone and the medium to high density housing to the east and the south. That's why we're requesting this zone change. The properties that we have, 2 of them, the larger parcels of property, are split into 2 different zones. That is not something that a planning commission would normally do. I think there's language in how the zones are established that talks about how that's not appropriate or that they should normally follow property lines. In this case, for whatever reason, it was not done. So we have a situation where we've got 2 zones on a couple of the parcels, then 2 other parcels, which if they weren't changed, it would be inappropriate to leave them as lone islands in the R20 zone. But if you look at this as an overall area of town, this is a very small island of R20 zone. It's not sound planning to put that type of zone next to your commercial and industrial properties and in between your high density housing. The reason we're asking for this zone change is so that the applicant has the opportunity to develop his property in one homogeneous development with it all being in one zone. You might say, well, why don't you change it all to R20? Well, you're just making a bad situation even worse. You're not going to put R20 houses, half acres houses, our largest lots, up against the Lowe's shopping center. So it's the applicant's intent is to change it all to the PD zone, which will allow a variety of uses, but specifically a medium density housing project similar to what is across the street. The request, oh, here it is. The request, you know, one of the things that the commission is to consider is does it meet the plan of conservation and development? The 2020-2030 plan, it does. We believe it does. The town planners report memorandum from Eric Hinckley dated October 4th, 2021 agrees with that. I'll bring out some of the highlights. On page 4, one of the vision statements of the POCD states in part, quote, Newington will seek ways to diversify its housing mix to meet the changing housing needs of present and future residents. Portions of this property are located within the special opportunity area. Why? Not just the PD. If you look at the map in the POCD, it's not just the land that's zoned PD. It actually encompasses part of the R20 zone as the opportunity zone. Those are on pages 45 to 57 of the plan. One of the overall goals of this area is to, quote, maximize possibility at opportunity sites to accomplish overall goals of the POCD. On page 56, the proposed map amendment further meets the following policy of economic development chapter of the POCD. 1, continue to promote economic development in Newington in order to A, provide jobs for residents of Newington and the region, provide goods and services for residents, businesses, visitors, and/or grow the grand list and provide tax net revenue to support local services. 4, seek to improve the attractiveness of Newington both economically and physically in order to attract economic development. And 5, increase the focus on economic opportunity areas. Again, this is identified as an economic opportunity area. And then lastly, on page 66, it talks about item number 2, seek to diversify Newington's housing portfolio to provide housing options for a variety of household types, sizes, ages, abilities, tenures, and income groups within safe and stable neighborhoods. Some of the components of that we talked about at the last presentation, and we'll get to in great detail in the subsequent applications if this zone changes to be approved. We have spent a great deal of time and effort evaluating this property, its best potential. We've submitted companion applications that demonstrate the developer's desire and intent to build a residential development on this property. We've looked at traffic. That is not to be considered in the zone change application. We believe, and our expert has testified, that there's capacity in the street for development. Whether it's what we propose or something else, there is capacity. So that shouldn't be an issue for this commission at this time. The property owners have rights. This is an opportunity for the property owners to enjoy their property and see development on it in a way that's meaningful to the town of Newington, that will be a benefit to its neighbors and the community as a whole. I'm gonna let go there right now. Bill Sweeney, our attorney with AR Building, if you have anything you'd like to add at this point, I welcome you.
Thank you, Alan. Just for the record, again, and I'll be very quick because as you may recall, we had a very lengthy public hearing last time, and I think we've made significant testimony and entered evidence into the record supporting our zone change. But again, for the record, my name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a land use planner and a partner at the law firm of Tobin Carberry in New London, Connecticut. I'm counsel here in Connecticut for AR Building. I want to just echo something that Alan said, and I think it's important when you sit here tonight is I know that there is a number of opponents to the project. There's a number of neighbors that you're going to hear from tonight who are opposed to this zone change. And they're also opposed to the actual development that my client intends. I want to remind the commission tonight, as you listen to the presentation, you listen to the comments, the charge before you is solely the zone change. It's not the actual project. There's another hearing that will be held at a later date on that project. So it might be difficult to focus on simply the issue of the zone change, but that's your legal charge tonight. And I encourage you to try to focus on that as we move forward. Echoing what Alan said as well, this is privately owned property. I've seen a lot of the emails and letters that have been submitted, and I'm sure you're going to hear from people tonight. Generally, people don't like change in their neighborhood. That's nothing unusual. That's nothing new. It's nothing unique to Newington. But this is not public land. This is not a public park. This is privately owned land that's held still by the Haltner family. They have a right, like any property owner, to come before and to petition and to work with the developer to petition to zone change their property, particularly when their property is in split zones, which makes it so hard to develop for any kind of reasonable economic return. And tonight, you're going to need to weigh our requests. You'll have to listen. You need to listen to the neighbors too. They have the right to voice their opinions, but ultimately you're making a decision not just for the neighbors who may appear at this meeting, you're making a decision for the whole community of Newington. And I think in our application materials, in the evidence that we submitted into the record last month, in your planner's report, it talks about the value of a project of this property being developed for economic development in the community. I think Alan's also pointed out, we talked a lot about transitions last month. You just need to look at this map. This map gives you every basis to approve the zone change. We go from PD to this sort of island or sliver of R20, this abandoned sort of fallow farm, and then to high density residential. It's just bad planning. I was a planner before I was a lawyer. It's just bad planning to go from high density commercial to the lowest density residential back up to high density. You want a gradual gradient and change. Makes no sense that property is zoned single family, and it should be combined with the adjacent zone. It should be combined with the zone that some of the property is already in, so that the Haltner family and ultimately AR Building has some reasonable use of the property. I'd also point out that tonight, when you listen to the opponents, remember that many of them live in the same types of apartments and condominiums that we're hoping to build on this property. I'm sure this is a nice neighborhood. There's a reason why we wanted to develop here. But our future tenants have just as much of a right to enjoy this neighborhood as they do, as the neighbors do. And I think it's only fitting that you look in the totality of what's going on in this neighborhood. It makes sense to have apartments on this property. Obviously, their zone change is simply that, but we need a zone change to be able to facilitate our vision. The other thing to remember too, is you look at this map, you can see that there are some pretty significant resource areas. Those are those blue areas with the orange upland review buffers. A lot of the property, regardless of what it's developed for, is going to be kept in its natural state because of those environmental constraints. And those natural areas will provide buffers and screening. We had testimony last month that some of these forested areas have trees that are 80, 90, 100 feet tall, twice as high as any potential development could be on the property. I think that should be kept in your consideration when you're considering whether this property is suitable for a zone change. And if it is developed, who are the properties that would be immediately adjacent? And you'll find that they are apartments, just like hopefully my client will develop at some point in the future. So again, tonight, please focus on the issue of the zone change and try to steer the hearing to that issue. If the zone change is approved, we'll come back and there'll be another opportunity for neighbors to talk about the specifics of a possible future development. With that, I'll turn it back to Alan if he has any other further comments.
I think we're all set, Mr. Chairman. I know it's gonna be a long meeting. I'm more than willing and able to rebut when that time comes.
Okay, thank you very much, Alan. All right, before we go to the public part, I just want to state for the record that we received lots of emails and all of them will be made part of the record. And I believe the applicant has a copy of all the emails that have come in today. And so we will open it up for public participation right now. And if there's anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application, you're limited to 2 minutes. Please raise your hand if you're wishing to speak in favor of this application. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to this application is limited to 3 minutes. Please raise your hand if you're wishing to speak in opposition. Okay, Eric, do you want to?
Yep, the first one I see is Visconti. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Paula Visconti. I live at, do I need to give my address?
Yes, your name and address for the record, please.
Paula Visconti, 202 Deming Street. I strongly oppose this change. There is no compelling reason, profit for someone to develop their property does not make a town reason for compelling reason to change a zone. I will comment on that it's supposed to be made more attractive. There's been many studies that show that towns are more attractive to personnel moving in, quality residents moving in, when there's more green, such as greenways. So those making it more attractive isn't gonna better the town at all. The owner did purchase the property with already having that division, so he should be able to develop it as it is zoned now. Once, if you were to change it, once you change that, there's no guarantee that those permits are going to be there. It could be stores. And now you have stores up against residents. That's not that. That is that, not that. Sorry. That's going to cause that big change in between. There shouldn't be a Lowe's extension across the street from a residential area. That concludes, I can go on and on why I disagree, but I strongly do not want to change this zone.
Thank you. Next one is Mr. Pasacantando. You can unmute yourself.
Before you start the clock, can I just offer a word of appreciation?
Please, go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate the work that the town of Newington and its various committees engage in. I served on a similar committee in the state of Massachusetts. I've worked with the federal government. I'm a university professor, expert witness on Wall Street, and business owner here. I know it can be long hours and at times a thankless job. I do want you to know it adds value, and for that I offer my gratitude. May I start?
Yes, go ahead. You're muted, Dominic.
May I start?
Yes, you go ahead, sir.
Okay, this zone change request should be absolutely denied. A couple of observations on comments I just heard. I agree that the decision should be based, at least in part, taking into account the owner. Quite frankly, the owner had full knowledge at the time they came into possession of this property. So they had known it was split zoned. Comment made by Attorney Sweeney, you know, trees as high as 100 feet. I think most people would agree that folks would rather look at the beauty of trees in nature than a lot of steel and concrete. I have many reasons why this should be denied. The proposed project is disconnected from the reality of the residents, taxpayers, and voters of Newington. I have over 35 points, but in the interest of time, let me just cover a few. The town put originally zoning laws in place a long time ago for a reason. This proposed development, zone PD and R20, the PD is consistent with the type of businesses on the Berlin Turnpike and other high traffic areas, its intended use. And I understand the Berlin Turnpike now holding more than 80,000 cars a day. The zoning laws are our constitution. While changing zoning and allowing for variances is an available tool, it should not be carelessly applied or manipulated. Let's honor our predecessors who had the wisdom and foresight to zone our town. They did so with public safety in mind and residents' interests in mind. Well, I'm here to say in no uncertain terms that the residents have spoken. We have petitioners signed, rally, coordinated communication campaign, well-spoken, organized group of committed residents, taxpayers, and voters who have spoken. They do not, and we do not want the zoning changed. Looking at aerial views, it appears that there's not much undeveloped land left and it's being hard surfaced very quickly. I'm very concerned. There should be a thorough and updated independent traffic study done. Emphasize independent, one that wouldn't include going back to 2018, 19, 2020, the time of COVID-19. I think it's misleading. Revenue, no brainer. Of course, we want to increase tax revenue as a town. We have a lot of tools available. State of Connecticut received $2.6 billion from the American Rescue Plan. Many of that went to 169 cities and towns in Connecticut, Newington being one. In Connecticut, COVID-fed funding per capita, 21,512, 30,000 residents in Newington. So input came in at $645 million. Crime, FBI statistics show that Newington has 670 crimes, 24 violent. Is that high? One is too high. Boldface Point, crimes per square mile in Connecticut is 16. Crimes per square mile in Newington is 51, over 3 times the amount. It's alarming. People are fearful. I think we need to look underneath at the real impact. Increased density in all likelihood will and can lead to more crime. In closing, we want responsible government, responsible decision-making. The cost here outweighs the benefits outlined. We should not act in haste. There's responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to thoroughly vet the project, calling for independent traffic study. Lastly, I ask each one of you to have the courage to think and act independently based on the facts as representatives of the residents. Deny this zone change. Let's deny this project, or at a minimum, the zone change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Next speaker is Peter Forsalina. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
I'm Peter Forsalina of 309 Candlewick Drive. Whereas I previously participated in TPZ meetings, this is the first one concerning my own neighborhood. I'm in opposition to the development of Culver Street Apartments as currently designed and proposed. I've lived on Candlewick Drive since 1995. I'd like to note that I did not previously oppose last year's development of homes on the property adjacent to Deming and Griswoldville, nor did I oppose the development of either Barnhill Homes or Harvest Court condominiums. This planned development, however, is much different based on the sheer volume of apartments planned and the significant increase in traffic flow on both Deming and Culver Streets. Anyone that drives to Lowe's and Walmart knows the congestions on Deming Street. Many people use Culver Street as a bypass to the Berlin Turnpike in getting to and from Rocky Hill. An estimate of 1,225 additional cars a day on Culver will negatively impact our residents and provide incremental safety concerns. I am pro-business, and I know that the landowner has the right to sell the property to the developer. I also realize that the development of this property will provide significant new tax revenue to the town. The current development proposal would require this zoning change. My request is that developers first look to pursue the entrance and exit of the proposed development on Costello Road, then on Deming Street. I understand that an entrance on Deming would necessitate a bridge to cross the wetlands. It may also include another traffic light on Deming. If the entrance exit can only be on Culver, then perhaps the development should be of single-family homes rather than apartments. If you do not live, commissioners, if you don't live in the Candlewick, Lamplighter, Culver neighborhoods, you would not realize the current traffic volumes on both Deming and Culver. An incremental traffic volume of 1,200 plus cars daily would be extremely challenging to all who live in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sal Visconti. You can unmute yourself.
Go ahead, Sal, and please state
Yeah,
your
good
name.
evening. Thank you. I've lived here at 202 Deming Street, directly at the epicenter of this project. And we have had some upgrades to our neighborhood, and that's been pretty okay. I'm concerned and I vote against this zone change because I think the scope of this project is larger than something that certainly larger than something that this neighborhood would want. I've been here for 12 years, as I said, and I'm hoping that, as I said, and I'm hoping that, my children will continue to live here and that they'll be able to have a safe area. If we put these apartments in here, I think the traffic would be more than, people would want to see. I wanted to talk a little bit about, the PD zone. From what I saw on the plans, the PD zone is the Berlin Turnpike. Deming Street is not the Berlin Turnpike. That's going to put all this traffic coming out of these apartments onto Deming Street. And whether they're going to the Turnpike or they're going to go over to Weathersfield or going to go to Rocky Hill, this is going to create a traffic jam. In addition to that, one of the AR representatives had talked about that these apartments were going to accomplish a goal of the POCD. I don't see how that's going to happen. I strongly oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next speaker is Doug Sweeney. Unmute yourself.
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Doug. Go right ahead. State your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Doug Sweeney. I live at 10 Woodward Drive. I'm opposed to this application for 4221. I go down Culver quite a bit, and the intersection of Culver and Deming is already at the max and has to be redesigned in the near future anyways, without the additional traffic. And the other thing is the Deming Road Street by the Berlin Turnpike and the entrance to Walmart has a traffic light on the Berlin Turnpike. And I've already had two close calls as far as accidents recently. So that definitely has to be addressed. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Doug. Next.
The next speaker, Yelena Kirian. You can unmute yourself.
Unfortunately, she will not be able to speak this evening because she's using an older software at this time.
Okay.
The next speaker is telephone ending in 038. You can unmute yourself.
Jenny Groom, 41 Cambridge Drive. You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Thank
okay. I oppose application 4221. I couldn't find on the town website how to submit written comments into the extension of remarks because I have a lot more than 3 minutes. Application 4221 does not match the goals and policies of the 2020-2030 Plan of Conservation and Development. This project can be built on the PD zone. Alternately, they can do development within the regulations of the residential zone. It does not have to be changed. Traffic, there is a slight grade right where they want to have the road, and coming out of Cambridge Arms, people can tell you, there's a moment where you can't see the cars approaching because of the slight grade. There's a blind spot. It's dangerous. The traffic study was conducted when people were staying home during a pandemic, so the most recent data isn't accurate. Traffic for any project should be diverted to the Berlin Turnpike, not Culver. The Berlin Turnpike is an opportunity site, not Culver. The POCD says development should consider mass transit and have traffic go to the Berlin Turnpike where the Connecticut transit routes already exist. Culver still needs to be made a complete street that has sidewalks and that is friendly to pedestrians and cyclists. with a zone change, it's just going to make it worse. The land, 10% of land in Newington is not developed. That's all, just 10%. And in this section of town, we have even less land that isn't developed. Throughout the POCD, there is an emphasis on buffers between residential and commercial areas. There's also an emphasis on reuse and redevelopment of existing sites. It's listed as a policy. We need this buffer. Changes to zoning are to take into account the characteristic of a neighborhood. This project is not similar to the apartments across the street, as the previous speaker said. These buildings are twice as tall as other complexes. It is not the town's responsibility to change zones because a developer wants to purchase land has more than one zone. The zoning change will not guarantee that apartments will be used. It will be changed to commercial. It is just not safe to change it. And with all the emphasis on buffers between commercial and residential, we deserve to have that buffer remain R20. Develop it for residential, fine, but don't change the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next
Michael.
speaker is Michael. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, hello.
Yes, go right ahead. Please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Shefchik. I live on 36 Candlewick Drive. We recently moved here about 4 years ago, me and my fiance, and one of the big reasons was because it's a quiet neighborhood. The woods is a buffer between us, the Berlin Turnpike. The traffic isn't terrible, and I feel like I'm opposed against this because it's going to really increase the traffic in the area. I travel down Culver a lot to go to work and the Berlin Turnpike, and it already is very busy in the morning for me to go at 5, 6 o'clock. Adding those apartments is really going to kick it up, and I don't think it's a good idea at all. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Michael. Next in line, Craig.
Craig, yes. You can unmute yourself, Craig.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, thank you guys for having us, and really appreciate the presentation. We're also opposed here, me and my partner.
Yeah. Excuse me, Craig, for 1 minute. If you could just state your full name and address for the record, I'd appreciate it very much. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Craig Van Alston. I live on 38 Apple Hill.
Thank you.
So yeah, the main reasons I guess that we're opposed to this is, as our fellow neighbors have said, that the traffic is definitely going to be an issue. Like they said, that the current traffic already feels like plenty, and adding such a high density apartments to the area could only make that worse. I don't really see how putting all the extra traffic onto Deming there and then having the other apartment complex just down the street with also a lot of cars coming in and out of there, Deming could sustain that. I don't feel like that's reasonable. I guess the other, listening to the presentation that the developer gave, we don't necessarily disagree that it's, ridiculous to have it as just, those really big lots and single homes, but it does seem ridiculous to turn it into the PD zone because, like, some of our fellow residents have said, you could put anything there. And we don't want to see anything there. We're fine with sort of a lower density housing situation there. Even more like, where we live in the condos in Apple Hill or some of the, lower density housing surrounding the area. But the property or the PD zone just doesn't seem to fit with the characteristics of the neighborhood at all. And, by the same logic that they're using, it seems ridiculous to just change it to that kind of zone, because it's not. Somebody said, an extension of Lowe's. It really shouldn't be that, and it would be terrible if it was. Yeah, and we're also concerned a little bit about, the auto theft in the area. Auto theft has already been a pretty big issue, it seems like, for the town in 2020 and possibly before that. But, adding a new apartment with a lot of cars, a huge parking lot, could just be another beacon for auto theft in the area. And obviously we'd like to prevent that. I think somebody else gave a statement that crime would increase, and we certainly agree with the logic behind that. I mean, higher density housing would draw that kind of activity. So for all those reasons, we're opposed, but we do consider the other housing being built on it, but not this PD zone and not these large apartments. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next in line
is Louis Rivera. You can unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Louis Rivera. I'm a resident here in Newington, 248 Culver Street. I purchased my home about 3 years ago. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this community, this area, was all of the green around in the area. I don't think that having a zone change from PD to residential to PD is appropriate in this case. As everyone else has mentioned, if anyone wants to build something or build anything on that area, it should be low dense housing, not anything that is going to be super big or anything like that. As everyone has mentioned here, right now, Culver and Denman Street, that corner there is terrible to be able to enter and exit Culver Street. It's really important to understand that when you are buying something, and here the developer and the company that purchases this property knows that this property is split between these two zonings. I don't understand if the plan is to build housing, why is there a need to change the zoning? Changing the zoning into a PD, it's going to make it into a commercial area where the owners and the developers can actually put whatever they want there. I don't think that is appropriate. I don't think that is thinking of the neighbors. I don't think that developers are thinking about the characteristics of the neighborhood. And I also don't think that it's fair for us to be able to say that the street can handle 1,200 additional cars when right now there's no sidewalks. Right now, you can sit across from my house and you can see a bunch of cars coming down and up Culver Street at high rates of speeds. And there's no sidewalks on Culver Street for you to even go out and walk. So I think that the decision tonight should be to not approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Charlene.
Next to be Charlene. You can unmute yourself.
Hello, I'm Charlene Mealy of 124 Apple Hill in Newington. And my husband and I are both very much against this change in the zone, as it would allow for a project bigger than should be in this area. The change, as some have already said, opens the door to commercial development, which would be devastating to the neighborhood. And the height of the trees and the height of 4-story buildings, they cannot even be compared. Trees help us environmentally. The proposed development or another of its size or bigger would be detrimental to the environment. Also, as daily walkers and cyclists in this neighborhood, safety is a huge concern for us. And especially with the proposed entrance and exit to this development or any other coming out on Culver would add many, many more cars on a road where there is already too much traffic with too much speed. And my husband would just like to add.
Yes, just real quick. I just wanted to add, I said it the last time, and I think Alan kind of dismissed it at the end about crime. He said society is a magnet for crime, but I've been a police officer and I'm still a current police officer for 4 decades. And right now the resurgence in crime is way up for many reasons, but What I would like to say is high density areas are the magnets for the criminals because they have the volume. Right now, catalytic converters are being cut out and they're going to parking lots where there's apartments because they could do 5, 6 catalytic converters at once. They're stealing cars and they're getting bolder and bolder as far as using violence against citizens that confront them. So that's all. I just wanted to add that again. The traffic, that's the situation as well. But the crime in the area, particularly in a high density apartment, is off the charts right now. I'm dealing with it along with my son, who's a police officer, and all the police officers across the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next in line, Matt Rossi.
Unmute yourself, Mr. Rossi.
Thank you. Matt Rossi, 17 Franklin Circle. First want to thank the commission for allowing us another opportunity to voice our opinion. My biggest concerns are going to be directly related to this. I'm not going to be talking about the apartments themselves, as Mr. Sweeney has pointed out multiple times. But there were a few comments from the last meeting that I think are important that I felt were said as possible ways of misleading. Mr. Bongiovanni had kept talking about this island, this R20 island, this R20 island. It shouldn't be there. He said it again tonight. And, you know, unless Mr. Bongiovanni calls Candlewick, Littlebrook, Cambridge, Rockledge, Culver Street, or Cobblestone, or any of the little streets off of those main streets, that's not his neighborhood, okay? He knows that that neighborhood where I live, and most of us who are talking in opposition to this project, our neighborhood will be the buffer zone between the PD zone if this R20 is changed to his neighborhood. Okay. I think that the planners, as it was tried to be passed off by Mr. Bongiovanni in the last meeting, as if it's a mistake, it doesn't fit, it doesn't look right. I think the zoners and planners at the time knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that this person owned this property, but half of the property had to stay residential in order for the Berlin Turnpike not to exit, enter, or fall and drain into the residential neighborhood. It was done with intention because of the fact they wanted to maintain a border between the businesses of the Berlin Turnpike and of the residential neighborhood. And we can't lose sight of that. We also can't lose sight of the people that purchased this land, and the developers knew what they were getting into. They knew that this property was half and half, okay? They knew what could fit in the PD zone and what couldn't. And by not allowing the zone change, by saying no to this request, you are not stopping them from benefiting from owning the property. They have to go back and they have to redo their plans. Their vision has to change. It is a normal business thing to come up with a vision and then have to reevaluate and change the vision in order for it to work. If you turn this to a PD zone and these apartments do not go in and the land is sold to somebody else, we could have a gas station right on Culver Street. We could have a bunch of businesses on Culver Street. We could have a business with tractor trailers coming in and out of Culver Street. I think that they have an option to continue to make money off of the land by building residential houses. They may be small. My property's not huge. My property's less than an acre, or excuse me, less than a quarter of an acre. And I don't see why somebody else would not buy a house with less than a quarter of an acre. So when you vote tonight, remember that this is not a guaranteed project and that you are not stopping them from developing it. All you're asking them to do is go back and redo their drawings, evaluate how many houses, how many apartments they want to put on, and change the way that this complex exits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, next person is Michelle Griffith. If you could unmute.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
My name is Michelle Griffith, and I live at 283 Culver Street. Well, I first want to say I'm totally with Matt Rossi, and would just like to tell him I agree with and believe in everything that he said, but I will quickly add some comments. I am strongly opposed to the zone change request by AR Builders. A zone change from R20 zone to a PD zone will open up the floodgates to commercial development in this established, and that's an important thing, in this established residential neighborhood. That would be scary, as even our town planner said recently. The Culver Street apartments would then be the least of our problems, and it is a very big problem. Although the developer has proposed 225 apartments, there would be nothing to stop them from building 762 apartments over the years. Multi-family housing is not the best use of this property. The POCD has identified potential locations for additional multi-family housing in town, and Culver Street isn't one of them. Well, then there's the traffic. AR Builders proposes to have the only entrance and exit on Culver Street and states it will only have a minimal impact of an additional 1,225 estimated trips per day. Their experts say Culver Street's design and width can handle a high traffic load. This street was not intended to be a major thoroughfare or an annex to the Berlin Turnpike. This would be a traffic congestion nightmare, only adding to the congestion that we now have. Development in our town needs to include considering impacts on the established neighborhoods. Again, this neighborhood is already established, and it has to be compatible with the characteristics of its surroundings. Listening to the developer tonight, he is totally overlooking that this is an established residential neighborhood, as if we don't matter. He says, make it all PD so this area can be developed commercially as compatible to Lowe's and other businesses on the Berlin Turnpike. Let's face it, AR development, they care about their own profits and not about our local community. Please remember that the views of residents of Newington should matter more than the self-interest of developers and its so-called experts. There again are so many reasons why this zone change in development should not happen, but I'll end here and thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Next in line is Chris Clancy. If you could unmute your phone.
Yep. Thank you, Chris Clancy, 130 Lamplighter Lane. I am speaking in opposition of this application. I do have to also agree. I think Matt Rossi put it beautifully, and I appreciate his words. Couldn't have said it better myself. I know we could talk about all the other points that come up that aren't related to the zone change, and I think we're all aware of those. But as far as the R20 going to PD, it is a very big concern for the neighborhood and what that kind of opens up to if it is turned into all PD. The property owner they do have the right to do whatever they want with the land, to sell it and do what they want with it. And I think what we're seeing here is just, the community coming together and voicing their opinions and hoping that this is sent back to the drawing board. And we're met in the middle, because if something has to happen, we would take, something similar or hope for something similar that would fit the neighborhood more. Again, I think this R20 is in place for a reason, and I'm against changing that. And after looking at the map, specifically with the new housing on, I think it's Deming Farm behind Walgreens, seems like a very similar situation where it was a piece of land. They put 11, nice houses in there just off the Berlin Turnpike. What appears to be that may not be R20 land in between the Berlin Turnpike and that neighborhood, but it seems very similar to this situation. I would really hope that this is sent back to the drawing board and something is proposed more along those lines, where it's, low density housing and we're not looking at, massive buildings or commercial development for years to come, and whatever changes come with that down the road. So I appreciate your time. And there is, one thing at the end in regards to the applicant's previous comments in the beginning. I will agree with the applicant's lawyer representation that yes, you know that you're making a decision for the community, and we are the community, and you know that. No one needs to tell you that. And I know you'll take our words into consideration when reviewing this. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it so much, and thanks.
Thank you, Chris. All right, next in there is Steve Gray. If you could unmute.
Yes, hello, my name is Steve Gray, 35 Littlebrook Drive. I am asking that this zone change is denied that's being proposed tonight. This is a residential neighborhood. It is not a commercial or industrial area. That is what the Berlin Turnpike is for. Culver, Littlebrook, Candlewick, and all the surrounding streets, we are a residential area. It was said earlier tonight, I believe by Alan, that single housing wouldn't want to abut next to Lowe's. But that is exactly what happened to the housing development that was put behind the Department of Transportation on the Berlin Turnpike and across from Walgreens. That is a beautiful neighborhood, residential neighborhood that is completely filled. There is not an empty house in that development. As stated, the traffic and the noise pollution to this project, if approved, would be disastrous for our area and irresponsible on this committee's part. You have a responsibility to the neighbors to preserve the quality of life for the neighbors and the people who live here and the character of the neighborhood. What is being proposed tonight is going against all of that. I am asking for the denial of this zone change. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Mr. Frank Zacco. Yeah, unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Barbara Zacco, and I reside at 30 Salem Drive. I did send an email earlier today. I wasn't sure if it was read or not. We joined the meeting a little bit late.
Yeah, let me just interrupt you for 1 second. All the emails that were sent in will be part of the minutes. And so you're welcome to, that will be part of the minutes, and you're welcome to speak about anything else.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, so I'll leave that there, but there are a couple of things just listening to my neighbors. Some additional items that I would like to reiterate as well. I think first of all, there seems to be an insinuation that we're somehow against the developer. And I just want to point out that it's not TPZ's job to ensure that the investors maximize their investment, excuse me, or they're allowed to change zoning. It is, the zoning exists for a reason. We as the community have already put a investment into our homes. Sorry, I have a cold. And I think that's what the community is supposed to do. We have a lot of housing diversity in this area. We have apartments, we have condos, we have big houses, we have smaller houses, we have big lots, we have smaller lots, and we do also have a traffic problem. I also would like to reiterate the fact that a traffic study that was done in the middle of a global pandemic where people were asked to stay at home was accepted. That should just be an addendum that, you know, we need to learn from that, and that never should have been accepted. So I'll now turn it over to my husband, and if he has anything to add.
Thank you. No, I appreciate the time. You know, I'm going to voice the concern that everyone else has, right? There's no need to have that type of facility that close to this neighborhood. You know, when we moved into this neighborhood, we looked at the surrounding areas, and that made our decision that, you know, we knew that, you know, what could possibly be built up and what couldn't be built. And then from a public safety point of view, I spent many years in public safety, and it's dangerous. You know, when walking down Culver, with the crest of the hill, cars are whipping by, and really the ingress and egress out of this facility is only going to be on Culver. It's going to create I just think a traffic nightmare. So that's pretty much all I have at this point. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Harold and the Kritzmans. You can unmute yourselves.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Good evening, TPZ members, AR Building Company, and your support group. Dan Kritzman and my husband Harold also, and we've resided at 91 Tremont Street for 44 years. I don't like your request for a zone change from R20 to PD. What a Pandora's box that would be. So I'm going to take the liberty of turning your proposed development of 225 apartment units on Culver Street in Newington upside down. And you're going to love my idea, even though I'm not paying you to do so. And you'll love me when I leave. AR Building Company, you need to build. That's what you do. I get that. That's your livelihood, and I don't want to take that away from you. As an aside, I can only hope that your final products are better than your internet reviews, but that remains to be seen. Just build something appropriate for, and make it something for which there's a real need and a real market. You could come out a real hero here. Build a community of single-family homes, or maybe two attached. Remember the movie Field of Dreams? Build it and they will come. Boy, would they come. I propose you request all the PD zoning to be R20 or R1. Build a beautiful community on that site and knock yourself out. Newington has very little land available for single-family homes. Build this type of community, make it fit the neighborhood, idyllic, bucolic, pastoral, and most of all, profitable. Owner-occupied, lower density, and far fewer units than UAR have presently proposed with your plan for mega unit apartment buildings. You could create a great development with very light increase in traffic, colonial style homes for families, or ranch style for empty nesters and seniors. Make it a gated community, make it a homeowners association. And if you're so itching to give the development the pool, clubhouse, and tennis courts, you will earn sole acclaim for making Newington the most desirable destination in central Connecticut to buy a home. Buyers will be throwing deposits at you like paper airplanes. And think about this, AR. You build them, you sell them, done deal, fini kaput. You make your profit and you walk away. Turnaround time, 2.5 years. You won't have to be the landlord and bear the burdens, headaches, and costs of being property managers. Lately, that's not a particularly rewarding career as seen through the pandemic. Then you let the homeowners association take over. Could be you really don't care about my suggestion. Perhaps you're not capable or you lack the imagination. You and your highly paid science-conscious experts and specialists who are so dismissive of what they call the neighborhood's anecdotal discussion, because following the science lately has become such a fashionable catchphrase. To you, the neighbors' concerns may sound anecdotal, but to the hundreds of them who live there, that's their reality. So please think about my suggestion, do the right thing. It should be obvious. You should build what the people and the town of Newington truly need. Bonus, your internet reviews will skyrocket because we'll love you when you leave.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Next is Dave.
You can unmute yourself, Mr. Horgan.
Dave Horgan, 30 Candlewick Drive. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this important matter tonight, and thank you, Commissioner, for this to the town. To focus tonight only on the zone change would be really, really unfair, because the developer has spoke at length in great detail about the Clover Apartments in the first meeting, and the zone change, the petition from the zone change is on behalf of the developer. So it makes no sense to be limited to.
Dave, you can talk about anything you want. If you want to expand above the zone change, that's your prerogative, all right?
I'd like to focus again tonight on the traffic issue in general, and particularly in regard to the added traffic congestion that the Clover Apartments would create. I would like to bring your attention to page 16 of the crash report that has been added to tonight's agenda. Page 16 talks about direction of travel and indicates that of the 34 accidents on Culver and Deming, 22 vehicles were going north and south, while 44 vehicles were going east and west. In other words, 67% of the accidents were on the section of Deming from Culver to the Berlin Turnpike, which we all know is that dangerous place where cars make turns in 4 directions all at once as cars enter and exit Walmart and Lowe's. There is no way to tell how many of the accidents occurred at the corner of Culver and Deming, but being the busiest intersection on Deming, it would be a reasonable conclusion that most, if not all, of the north-south accidents were on that corner. So I'm sure that a substantial portion of the crashes that happened on Deming were from Culver to the Berlin Turnpike. Adding 1,225 more daily car trips to the Culver-Deming area will certainly increase traffic congestion, and by extension will increase the number of accidents at the already dangerous Walmart and Lowe's driveway. It should also be noted that the traffic report submitted by the developer at the first public hearing only addressed accident data on Culver and Colby, completely ignoring Deming, which will be the primary path for traffic generated for the Culver apartments. I will close with an appeal that your actions on this zone change take complete regard for the neighbors who have all spoken tonight and our interest. You hopefully have in front of you my summary of the reasons to deny the zone change that was submitted by email, as well as a petition signed by 161 of our neighbors who all live in the affected area. This, coupled with the folks you have already heard from and will hear from tonight, I believe leaves you no choice but that you must reject the requested zone change. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I guess we have
Phone number ending in 226. You can unmute yourself.
Could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. This is Helena Kirian, 41 Cambridge Arms. I would like to say that I oppose this zoning changes, and I listed my reasons in the email. But I also provided technical support to my neighbors who have no access to the computer. So I would like to pass my phone to Mr. Jack Dooley.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Go right ahead. If you could state your full name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Jack Dooley, 17 Cambridge Drive. And I would like to address the issue. I think I'm speaking on behalf of all the people in the southeast section of Newington, including the most of the town of Newington. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty. I'm sorry here. But in any case, most of us know that Newington was a farm community, a dairy farm community, and eventually evolved into a suburb community between Hartford and New Britain. Over the past 40 years, things have grown, commercialism has grown, and the Long Berlin Turnpike, which is a commercial strip, for those that don't know, there's a commercial strip that runs the entire length of town from the north to the south border, but commercialism has grown where we've come up with big box stores, shopping centers, supermarkets, and small businesses. Okay, speaking of the vehicles, moving on to the vehicle congestion. Anywhere you have congestion brings bigger crime rates. Congestion in itself does that. If anybody wants to study that, look at the lemming effect up in the north end of Finland and the little rodents that migrate when they jump into the ocean when things get too congested. We're seeing that more and more and more with crime around all the congested areas around Hartford, around the state, and around the country. I say that this congestion is going to be nothing but trouble for us. This apartment complex they're going to build, how on earth they are asking for 4-story units? 4-story units is beyond me. Where everybody else in the area has a 2-story unit, except I think the elderly housing tower in Hartford, there might be one other building. I mean, in Newington, there might be one other building there that's, a high rise. This development, number 2, does the developer really realize that the 2 roads bordering their property are Culver Street and Deming Road? I'm sure they realize it. And what a mess of traffic that's going to be. Who thinks that somebody is going to move into a nice apartment complex wedged in between a little pie shape of 20 acres between Berlin Turnpike, Culver Street, and Deming Road? The locate, as they say in real estate, location, location, location. You look at that and it's just a mess of congestion. As far as I'm concerned, I could go on longer, but I'm going to wind this up by saying this should be vehemently opposed by everybody in Newington. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Brad Allen, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I just wanted to make a couple points. My name is Brad Allen, 60 Shady Hill Lane, and just for background, I'm a small builder that retired, built 4 homes up on Shady Hill Lane in Newington. First comment is around Culver Street. Culver Street, as it stands today, really from north to south, is all residential. There's a variety of residential zones, but it is all residential. Actually bringing a PD zone down to Culver Street would actually be the inconsistency. Another point I want to make is that for PD zone, it's odd that there's no immediate access to the Berlin Turnpike or even a road off of the Berlin Turnpike. It would be a road off of the Berlin Turnpike. Also seems to be an inconsistency for PD zone. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have phone number ending in 018.
Unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please state your name and.
Carol Bixby. I'm at 71 Candlewick Drive in Newington, and I'm opposed to the zone change. I've been here since 1995, and it's just a beautiful residential neighborhood with families and children and dogs, and people are outside running. And I just don't see putting in a commercial zone that could get, as people mentioned, tractor trailers coming into stores. They could be any kind of store. They could be, for all we know, one of these stores that sells, what was it called? VIP stores, that type of thing. We have no control. Once it's for commercial use, it could be bars, it could be axe throwing places, it would change the character of what why people have moved to this neighborhood in the first place, to raise families. And it's not going to be populated if they build apartments by young professionals, because somebody else mentioned this too. Young professionals want to live in places like West Hartford, where they have Blueback Square. Newington is a family area. A young professional couple don't want to be between Chick-fil-A and Arby's on the Berlin Turnpike. So that is not the demographics. We are going to get a lot more children, which is going to impact our schools. So I just don't think that this is the spot to put in 4-story apartment buildings. Or I don't want to change the zone so that we could get stores or establishments that we really don't want here. And we don't need the traffic. We really don't need the traffic here. So
Thank you for your comments. Could you just restate your name for the record, please?
Yes, it's Carol Bixby, Bixby, 71 Candlewick Drive.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next.
Ted Rosencrantz, next speaker. You can unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hi, Ted. Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, this is Ted Rosencrantz. I have lived in the neighborhood here since 1977, with the exception of 2 years where I left for medical training.
In your address, Ted?
Oh, I'm sorry, 38 Sunnybrook Drive.
Thank you.
What's being proposed is, as other people have said, is totally out of character with the neighborhood. My greatest concern, though, is the traffic issue. We already have an intersection between Lowe's and Walmart, which is, I mean, just, it's it's totally unsafe. If I were designing it, I would have put a four-way stop into that area. And now putting more commercial, or there's a large apartment complex, is going to increase the traffic there and just make it more dangerous. And as a physician, may I just see this as an opportunity for people to lose their lives.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And next.
Next speaker is Chris Richards. You can unmute yourself.
How you doing? My name is Chris Richards. I live at 44 Candlewick Drive. And I'd like to reiterate what some of my neighbors have said. I think you're going to totally overwhelm this neighborhood by putting that many units into this neighborhood, which I think is already to capacity. There's already a situation with the traffic as is. And I'd just like to say that. And my wife would like to jump on here.
Hi, my name is Lisa Richards. I'm at 44 Candlewick. We are very much opposed to this. And please don't change the zoning for this, because it's just going to cause a problem more than we already have in the area. Safety, school, it's going to stress all the services for the town. All these things need to be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Mr. Alskari, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Abdallah Al-Sakri and I live at 10 Ledgecrest Drive. I did submit a letter into the record in opposition of the application earlier this week. However, I did want to make a few additional comments. Prior to living at Ledgecrest, I did live on Littlebrook Drive. I am a long-term resident of Newington, and when I moved out of my childhood home, I chose to only look and purchase a home in Newington. And I say this to highlight that I'm highly invested in the growth of our town and deeply care for it. We've heard multiple times from the applicant and their representatives how landowners have rights. However, I want to highlight that we, the town, would not be unfairly treating the applicant by denying their application. They made the decision to develop the land fully aware of the current zoning classification of this property, yet they still decided to proceed with this type of development. The question at hand here is whether the town has an obligation to change the zone to benefit the developer. I believe it does not, and doing so would actually set a bad precedence that we are obligated to prioritize the needs and profits of developers over the desires of the town. Not agreeing to change the zoning classification does not prevent the developer from developing the land. However, approving this zoning change would obligate the town to allow commercial development on that land, but it would not require the developer to stick to the plan that they had submitted. So I believe that this application should be denied, and I would like to thank the commissioners for their time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Mr. Griffith, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. David Griffith, 283 Culver Street. The request for the zone change does not meet Newington's comprehensive plan of zoning. When a zone change creates a new non-conforming use, which is being proposed here in connection with the zone change, but also if it radically changes the permitted uses from a single-family home district to the alarming, if not scary, PD uses, which include the following: funeral parlors, mortuaries, nightclubs, gas stations, distilleries, hotels and motels up to 4 stories. And just about, well, and every use that's already permitted on the Berlin Turnpike. The zone change request should be denied. It does not meet the comprehensive plan of zoning for the town of Newington. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Denise Tyrell, you can unmute yourself.
Please.
Hi, this is Denise Tyrell and Brian Tyrell from 78 Lamplighter Lane. And we're just want to say that we're opposed to the zone change. The zone has been this way for a long time. We've been here for over 25 years. And there's other developers who have developed the neighborhoods with homes and not 4-story apartment buildings. And we'd like to see this neighborhood stay the way it's been developed, for the last 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
I currently see no more speakers. Unless you want to start having.
We're not having repeat people right now.
Okay.
If there's anybody that hasn't spoken, Armand, I don't think has spoken.
No, he just lowered his hand.
Okay. If you haven't spoken and you have something that you'd like to say, then you're more than welcome to raise your hand. We'll give it another minute. Yes.
Armand.
Yeah.
I have a letter that was sent to me by 8-year-old Adina Bochenkov, and she resides at 20 Cobblestone Court. And her dad asked me if I could read this into the record.
Go right ahead, Carol.
I do not want you to cut down the forest for the condos. One reason is because of the amount of trees that will be cut down. The number is huge. Another reason is because of the traffic. I have to drive by the road next to the forest and other people too. Lots of people have plans and they can't be late. Another reason is the noise. Construction makes a lot of noise and a lot of people wouldn't be able to do their work while listening to the rattling and the power tools. The last reason is because the forest is the only organic forest in Rocky Hill, Weathersfield, Berlin, and Newington. So I hope I have convinced you not to build a complex.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
All right. Next would be Armand, if you'd like to.
Armand, you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Well, I sent a letter in and Spatoli, the email.
If you could just state your name.
The way I look at it.
Excuse me for 1 second. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Armin Barneski. I live at 328 Lamplighter Lane.
Thank you.
I've been a resident for over 40 years. I believe that the area in question for the zoning change, it should be left as nature made it. And I think we need on this side of the Berlin Turnpike a place for peace and tranquility so that people in the neighborhoods can have some walking paths. I suggest that they make it into a walking path and possibly a bike path, but picnic tables, something where people could just feel relaxed to go and feel comfortable. We have, the other side of the Berlin Turnpike, we have Mill Pond. But on this side of the Turnpike, I think that would be left as is. And what this young lady said, the 8-year-old young lady said, I totally agree with it. It's a beautiful area. Nature's given us so many beautiful trees, the change of seasons, and just a place to relax. And I think we really need that. That would help everyone. The entire neighborhood would benefit from that. And that's just my feeling, that it should be left as is. But, you know, maybe as a land trust so that the town could buy that land and just leave it as is. And I think that would benefit everyone more so. The traffic and all these other issues, you know, I've heard it, you know, the how it looks and all that, but the real thing is that we have a place to go and to actually enjoy and relax. And I think we need that in today's world. And that's just my feeling.
Thank you very much. Okay, next, Eric.
Next person is Badawi. I think I said that right. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Newington residents. My name is Mohammed Majdoub and I live in 45 Apple Hill. This project is personally shocked me of the changes that's going to take place if this project go live, because we struggle to move to this town and look for a quiet place and a nice neighborhood. Well, it's like close to suburb. Right now, our dreams will be shredded if this project take place. I'm speaking on behalf of my neighbors, my family, my friends. Tons of people are involved. So this is a big change for community of Newington, and not mentioning effect on schools, effect on security in general, effect on traffic, effect on pollution, all that jazz. So that's my comment, and thanks for hearing.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker, Elizabeth Brown. You can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Brendan Brown, 24 Troutbrook Circle. Having lived in this neighborhood for 17 years, I am vehemently opposed to this proposal and application. As you've heard throughout the night, too many uncertainties. Crime rate. We've seen this as recently up as to the auto impacts on Kitts Lane. Traffic study, which is utterly flawed considering when it was performed. No need for a PD change has been highlighted by many people, including Mr. Rossi and Mr. Gray. Nonetheless, we continue to move forward with some of these things without considering the impacts on services across the town, especially our schools. We are vehemently opposed to this application and ask the council to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see anyone else. Oh, sorry, hold on. Bruce, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening. Bruce Scotty, 24 Cortland Way. I'd like to point out a couple of things and reiterate what a lot of people have previously said, in that this particular hearing tonight is about the zone change, and the original town planners had considered always leaving a buffer zone between the Berlin Turnpike racetrack and what is now currently the Deming Way Culver racetrack. And this would only increase. If these developers are looking to put in a low impact type of project, that is suitable with the neighborhood. The second you change the zoning, whether your intention is not to allow commercial use, you've opened up a Pandora's box of them being able to appeal any future hearings and go to court if they don't like the outcome. that lovely young girl when she was talking about conservation. There is a nesting pair of hawks, sparrowhawks, that have lived here for 20 years, that raise their baby every single year in this neighborhood in the trees across the street. Even large-scale apartment buildings would impact them, and they should be preserved, and all the other wildlife and nature that exists in that particular area. The one thing I haven't heard anybody mention is that the second you change that zone, whatever goes there, once it is a commercial zone, every single property owner's property value will diminish. It's a proven fact. And when Attorney Sweeney said, oh, it's mostly apartments, he was out of line, apparently didn't drive the neighborhood, because everybody in Apple Hill and Cortland Way are homeowners. All the other streets that have voiced their opinion are homeowners, and we're the ones that pay the taxes, and we're the ones that need to be protected from the pike by maintaining that buffer zone. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Continue, Eric, but with just people that haven't spoken, okay, please?
Robin Alderi, you can unmute yourself.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Robin Alderi. I live on 62 Rockledge Drive. And I wanted to also convey my strong opposition to this zoning change. I do feel that the proposed change of zoning would open up this property to future commercial development, which is definitely something that we would not want in this beautiful residential area. The developer's representative indicated that the proposed development was similar to the multifamily dwellings that were in the area. However, this really isn't true because the 4-story design that is proposed really does not fit in with the rest of the area, which has the maximum of a 2-story multifamily areas. What I am extremely concerned about as a member of the community, as well as a parent, is the grossly flawed traffic study that is being used to base the traffic flow on the age of the study, as well as the timing during pandemic that we're using some of the numbers to base future traffic pattern and Patrick volume on is just unacceptable. I'm concerned about the safety for our drivers with the many more hundreds of cars that have the opportunity then to be on Culver Street. I have concern for pedestrians, and I have especially a concern for our children who are taking school buses to school. I've lived on Rockledge Drive. We built about 18 years ago, and I can tell you that I've seen so many cars run through stop signs as well as past stopped buses picking up our children. On Culver Street, the school buses sometimes do not always let the kids off on their side of the street, so they do have to cross the streets. We have witnessed some close calls in the past. So I am very much putting out there the plea of a parent for the rest of the parents that are out there, because I do fear for the safety of our children. So just in summary, I do strongly oppose this zoning change. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
William Taranelli, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. My name is Bill Taranelli, and I live at 17 Apple Hill with my wife. I've been a resident of Newington for the past 11 years, and my wife and I are greatly against any applications for upzoning or rezoning in this area for a number of different reasons. I think many of my colleagues talked today about safety, and I want to continue to emphasize that this area was engineered for specific travel and specific population density. Now, with you increasing that density, you're also increasing the frequency as well as severity of possible transportation accidents and pedestrians risks. Both my wife and I are completely against from that standpoint of making that an issue even worse than it already is in that specific area. I'd also say from a crime standpoint, there are some great points by creating an influx of population in this area. You're also increasing the interest for criminals to hit more targets. And again, you're creating that frequency as well as severity model of, well, this is an even bigger target, so this is more influx for possible criminal activity. I'll also say, so one piece that wasn't mentioned is whenever you have construction, especially construction of this size, you have potential for damage to homes in the surrounding areas from any types of construction needs in order to blast or any types of needs to build a further deeper foundation. And yes, most construction companies have bond sureties and construction insurance, but for potential residents that have damages to their foundations that could be years upon years of falling through litigation with an insurance company or with that construction company to try and make ourselves whole again. So whenever you have construction of this magnitude, this close to residents, you have that potential for damage that'll happen to our surrounding homes and to our surrounding foundations. And it could take up to years for us to even notice that there's severe cracks within our foundations from this construction. And then the final piece is the eventual cost that it's going to be to the town. So you're going to have to upgrade the infrastructure at some point in that area. There's no doubt about it. When you increase the size and the density of population in that area and the amount of traffic, you're going to have to upgrade the infrastructure. You're also going to put an added strain onto the police and fire forces of Newington in that area because of that increased infrastructure. And you're also, because you haven't upgraded that infrastructure, you're also going to create an opportunity for them not to have a speedier response to the worst of circumstances. So it's for all of those 5 different reasons that both my wife and I can't plea enough that this doesn't make sense for this application for upzoning or rezoning. Thank you very much for listening to us today.
Thank you.
Kevin Markowitz, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak. I am Kevin Markevich, and I live at 134 Candlewick Drive, and I've been here a resident of Newington for 20 years. And I just want to echo the points that my fellow neighbors have been bringing up. My concern is with the traffic study. Anybody that's traveled the Berlin Turnpike, especially around the holiday season, will know that we really cannot afford to have any more traffic going up and down the Berlin Turnpike, because I travel from Hartford to Newington daily, and sometimes it can take me close to an hour to get home from Hartford around the Christmas time. But also my concern is the traffic on Culver Street, especially that pinch point in the corner of Deming and Culver. I just can't imagine what that intersection would be looking like. I am a motorcycle enthusiast, and at this point, I am afraid to actually drive my motorcycle down Deming Street towards the Berlin Turnpike with the way cars just jet in and out of the parking lots of the stores. So I'm just very concerned about that increasing. And also, I very much appreciate the foliage and the woods that are a separation point between our neighborhood and the Berlin Turnpike. So it seems like every year the Turnpike is getting louder and louder. And if we thin that forest, build more buildings, create more light pollution, then I'm just very concerned about the impact that that's going to have on our neighborhood. So I would just like to go on record that I'm very much opposed to this idea of building a 4-story apartment complex in this location. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think that's everybody. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the applicant for any rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Alan Bongiovanni. Before I start, and I did have the benefit of looking at all the written correspondence, emails that were submitted, and I know you're not reading them, but there was one in favor, and if the commission could see fit, I think the public should hear that person, because I think they have a lot of concerns that should be aired and not listen to just a one-sided conversation.
Would you like to read that, Alan, or I don't have it in front of me.
Don't know that I have it. Hang on.
That, or maybe staff has it.
It was from William D'Amelia. Oh, here I do have a copy. William D'Amelia, 32 Coachman Lane. I have lived in the Candlewick neighborhood longer than anyone, and I have seen it develop over the years. I have read or heard most of your concerns about traffic, noise, house values, tax rebates, and possible open space. Would I like to see the area remain the way it exists? Sure. But unfortunately, things change, as I have witnessed throughout the years. I would still like to visit Oscar and his wife at their chicken coop to buy our eggs. It was quite a large building. I would like to go to Growler's Apple Orchards and buy our apples or cider, now Apple Hill. These are good memories, but gone. A lot of the area residents are concerned about the additional cars from proposed apartments. Will there be more cars? Probably. But we already live in a neighborhood of well over 200 apartments. I saw those apartments being built and watched a neighborhood of over 600 houses grow. I do not see over 1,000 cars heading out at once that way, the way it's described. We saw Apple Hill developed about 35 years ago with nearly 300 condominiums. I go by there every day and do not encounter heavy traffic. It is 2021, and many more folks are now working from home due to COVID. I have many relatives working in Hartford who saw this will be the new normal. They will return, but maybe not every day. Some people mentioned crime, noise, lowering house values, and there were other things. I just don't see this proposed apartment contributing to these items. I can hear the traffic from the turnpike during the summer when the windows are open, but the noise has been there all along. Do I like it? No, I have lived with it. Will there be crime? Yes, it happens everywhere. Our police are doing their best. We have an existing 50-year-old, nicely maintained apartments right now in the neighborhood that have not been sold to a hedge fund or another large company. I have sold homes in our neighborhood and built new ones and have not seen my property lose value. I do not think anyone has seen their properties go down with the existing apartments in our area. We can see right now from different locations in our area, the tops and backs of Lowe's, Walmart, Staples, and other buildings. I was amazed that so many old growth trees were being saved to develop this size project. I know that there was a possible subdivision of homes for this property, and if it was developed, many more trees in this proposal would have been taken down. I know I am not the norm with most of the residents, but I am giving my thoughts. I worry that someone else would have to clear more trees. Thank you, William D'Amelia. I think he had a lot of good points, and I think it's fair that the commission and the public hear them.
Thank you, Alan.
Chairman Payne, may I speak real quick? 1 second.
Go right ahead, Vice Chairman Claffey.
Mr. Bongiovanni, if you could make sure that what you just read into the record is sent to Renata, and so she can distribute that to us. I know I don't have a copy of it, but I do want to make sure that what you did read gets put in the record, other than just verbally.
But that was provided by town staff.
Okay, no, I understand. I totally agree. It's not, I'm just, to protect all parties involved, what we just have transpired, I just ask out of, I understand now, but thank you.
Okay, to get to my rebuttal. To clear the record, the owner, the Haltner family has owned this property before it was zoned, before it was split zone, before it was any zone. Jean Haltner is 89, lives on the property. She was born on the property. 89 years ago did not exist zoning regulations. They were imposed on the property as time went on. The developer looked at the property, was presented to them for sale. He looked at the property, saw a zoning anomaly with this island of R20, looked at the potential in its location for the PD zone, met with staff, and was encouraged by Town of Newington staff that there is real potential to utilize or realize the type of development that they do at AR Building in this location. They are not here because they are trying to shove something down somebody's throat that nobody wants, because there's a lot of people that are interested in this project. That's why they chose this endeavor. They were encouraged by the town and they're following up on that encouragement. This is a good location. These are professional developers that own over 9,000 units. They know their business, and this is a market they would like to be in. Several comments, written, verbal, mass transit. Actually, this isn't a mass transit area. The buses come down the Berlin Turnpike to the Lowe's and Walmart Plaza. All one has to do is call the bus company. They're looking for increased ridership. They will put a bus stop in front of this or any other apartment complex in the state of Connecticut. So this is accessible to a mass transit route. A lot of concern about if you change it to PD zone, we're going to get anything and everything that's on the Berlin Turnpike or worse. In a PD zone, anything that is proposed on that property has to come before this commission. It is not a given that anything that anybody wants to do can be done here. And in all practicality, if you look at the location, it's not suitable for most uses on the Berlin Turnpike. But again, it does require an approval from this commission, either by site plan or site plan and special permit. I've heard a lot that this is not compatible with the existing community. The developer is proposing a density of about 8.5 units per acre. The apartments across the street are about 8.7, 8.8 units per acre. The landmark apartments are closer to 9 units per acre. The Apple Hill development is 300 units. It's condominiums on the outside, but the interior rented as apartments. That density is probably 10 or 12 units per acre. I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing. To say that it doesn't fit with the community or compatible with the neighborhood, it's very consistent with the neighboring uses. If a PD zone is granted and a special permit for residential use is granted as well, this will be the buffer, the transition between what is on the Berlin Turnpike and the commercial industrial uses and the apartments that we have on the Berlin, on Deming Street. A lot of comments that the commission is not here to make sure a developer makes money. That's true. But the commission should be concerned about maximizing the potential of the real estate within the town. Part of the plan of conservation is develop this grow the grand list. If the town took the Planning and Zoning Commission took the approach that let's minimize the amount of rooftops and the amount of houses and the amount of people we can serve in this town, they're not doing their job. This is an application that provides a unique housing style in the town of Newington that we don't have. As a luxury apartment, it provides buildings with elevators. We don't have apartment buildings with elevators. It's very conducive to the senior lifestyle, to the snowbirds, the people that have lived in town their whole life, don't want to leave the community, but would like to have a place that they don't have to maintain, take care of, pay taxes on. And this could be an ideal location for those people. These are 50% one bedroom and 50% two bedroom apartments. This is not a project that you would expect hundreds of children to be generated from, even though that's not a consideration for the Planning and Zoning Commission. A lot of comments, especially written, that they'd like to see Costello Road extended through to Deming Street. That can be done. That would be a traffic nightmare for everybody, including me, that I do live in the neighborhood. There's a lot of potential for commercial uses to be done on the PD zone property as it sits today. As you're scared that we may create in the future, we've come before the town with an application and a commitment to create a residential community in this location. That is our proposal, and that is what the developer intends to do, and nothing less. With that, I think I'll turn it over to Bill Sweeney. Continue with our rebuttal.
Thanks, Alan. I'll be very quick and try to be respectful of the commission's time. In terms of testimony regarding other uses that may be allowed in PD, I fully agree with Alan's points. I would encourage the commission, as you deliberate the zone change, to actually look at the PD zone and the uses that are allowed, both permitted and special permitted. A lot of the parade of horrible uses, like a gas station that may have been raised in the hearing, those are subject to special permit review. And so you have that discretionary review to ensure that the project is compatible with the neighborhood. I don't think a gas station would be appropriate for this site, and that's why it's a special permitted use and not just a permitted use. But take a look at what's actually allowed and what the actual standard is. Further, look at what's likely. And I think your planner, Renata, did a really nice job at the last meeting talking about this. You're not going to get another Lowe's. You're not going to get another supermarket that far off the Berlin Turnpike. That's just not what happens. That's not what people develop. If you look at this site, look at the list of uses, really residential multifamily is the most likely use. And that's certainly the use that my client wants to pursue. Also look at the fact that the PD zone requires certain buffers and separation distances. That's really important too. There's no way there's going to be something right up on Culver Street because you have to maintain buffers for the zone. So take your time and look at that. I think you'll be rest assured that the parade of horribles that may have been laid out just isn't reality in any way, shape, or form. There was a lot of talk about traffic. There was a lot of talk about traffic at the last hearing. All of that is anecdotal testimony. You didn't have a single traffic engineer get up and testify about traffic analysis. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can tell you on any project that I've ever done where I have opposition, somebody goes up and says that's just too much traffic on this road already. I don't want the traffic in my neighborhood. I don't want the traffic, coming down my street. And that's a typical reaction. People don't want the traffic, but the reality is that traffic is a matter of expert testimony. We have an expert who testified it at length at the last hearing, who analyzed the intersections, who analyzed the capacity of Culver Street and gave you clear and convincing testimony that you must by law give weight to, that Culver Street is more than adequate to allow for future development, particularly for residential development. I also want to point out there was some talk about crime. I've heard that when I've been doing projects for affordable housing, some commercial projects. I've never heard someone suggest that crime could be an issue on a luxury apartment complex. But certainly there was testimony to that. Again, that's anecdotal testimony. I don't think there was any evidence whatsoever that was clear or convincing that there's any actual basis for that type of a comment. I want to comment also that there are sidewalks on Culver Street, on the east side of Culver Street. So there was someone who said there are no sidewalks. That was brought up in the testimony by our traffic engineer last time. Certainly people should be using those sidewalks. If there's a need for more sidewalks, that's certainly something the community should look for. And when you get to the level of an actual site plan, we can talk about that too. But there are sidewalks on Culver on the east side right now. There was also some comments that the project would be detrimental to critical resources, environmental areas. If you look at the site plan of our concept design, we are developing the old and fallow farm, the farm that's been abandoned. Actually, 15.6 acres of land is going to be put into permanent conservation as a result of our development. And I would say it's not just our development. I would suggest that whatever happens on this property, you're going to get a similar amount of land that's put aside. Why? Because there's wetlands. These are older growth areas. It's the abandoned farm that is the developable portion of the property. That's the amount of acreage that we're looking to set aside is almost 60% of the land mass. So I think that's a significant issue, and that's going to happen no matter what, whatever the use of this property is, whether it's AR Building or someone else down the road. You've got significant wetlands on the property. There's going to be land that's set aside and left in its natural state. I also want to comment. I know Mr. Horrigan, who's sort of the leader of the opposition, he mentioned a petition that was submitted. I just want to say for the record, I have not seen a petition. If there was a petition, that should have been submitted to the applicant or myself for review. And I would ask the chairman to, after I complete, just to address that issue. I don't have any record of a petition being submitted, and I certainly would want to review that if a petition has been submitted. And just a few other items. There was some testimony about property values. Again, the individual who suggested that property values would diminish did not represent himself to be a licensed land appraiser. Property values is an issue of expert testimony. That is just anecdotal evidence. In fact, I would suggest that any property values are already impacted in this area by the proximity to the Berlin Turnpike. I also have Mr. Hesketh, who is our traffic engineer. He's here tonight. So before the public hearing closes, if the commission has any other follow-up questions from Mr. Hesketh, he's available if you'd like to ask them to him. If you want to clarify anything that he said, particularly about the appropriateness of the study, why he used the data he did, what his findings were. We reported that at great length at the last meeting, but we're happy to provide it, reiterate it to you again if you need more information. And then finally, there was an issue about infrastructure. Certainly infrastructure is important in any project, whether it's a multifamily or a commercial project, but that's done at the site plan review level. So that's where we're going to show that we have proper sewer, proper water, proper stormwater drainage, whether we have the proper access drives, whether we have the necessary requirements of the property to support the development. And that would take place at the next step, which we talked about before, after the zone change. So that's all I have tonight. I would ask you, I think that this hearing has gone on quite a long time. There's been multiple people have spoken. The public certainly has had an opportunity. We've had certain opponents speak 2-3 times now. I would ask at the end of tonight that you do close the public hearing. You don't have to make a decision tonight. You can sit on that. You can consider it. You can ruminate over it. But we would ask that the hearing be closed. And with that, I would just turn it over. I know Jason Kambitsis, who's the Vice President of Land Development for AR Building. He just wants to say a final word to the commission, and then we'll end our presentation this evening. Thank you again for your attention. And just, Jason, if you just want to say a few words.
Yeah, that'd be great. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I know it's been said before, but I'll say it again. I really appreciate everybody's time tonight. I know this is going on for for a couple hours now, but I've done this work myself as a commissioner, so I fully understand what you're going through and appreciate the time and effort. I'm just going to kind of reiterate some of the stuff that Bill and Alan said. As a company that has over 9,000 units in 10 states, we take pride in our property. We own them, we build them, we manage them. We don't sell them. We're not a REIT. We don't sell to REITs. We're not a guy who needs to buy and build and sell. Really, we like to hold on. That's been the mantra of this company for the last 50 plus years, and that's how it continues to stay. With that, we have a tremendous amount of pride. That's why we keep them. We keep them in tip-top shape as far as landscaping, the way they look, and the way that we build them. Quality is paramount in everything that we do, and we care about our residents. They are the ones that pay the bills for us. And we talk about crime. It was brought up a lot. You don't have a company this size with almost 100% occupancy, and I say 98% occupancy because sometimes people have to move and have crime, and look down on that. We take it very, very seriously. Our buildings are all secured. We light our buildings. We have cameras. Anything that pops up, any kind of suspicious activity is reported. We really want to make sure that we create a safe and comfortable environment for not only us, but everybody around it. We are part of the community. And I will say that we have properties just like this, even closer to other homes and other neighborhoods where we don't see that crime. We don't see that kind of impediment on the community. We've seen property values go up. And we've only seen a value to the community, new businesses opening up, bringing more people into the community. So I would say that from a town perspective and really from a neighborhood perspective. Bill had touched on, you need a special permit to do anything else here. I know that we're not able to, by Connecticut law, to say that we're going to make this just apartments, but I'd be happy to do whatever. I mean, the reality is that's what we do. That's what we're here to do. We're here to build apartments. We're not here to flip the property and put a gas station in. It makes absolutely no sense for us. We wouldn't do it. We wouldn't want to do it. We wouldn't spend the time and effort on this in order to just do that. Traffic, I think we beat that. It's been reviewed. We've had our experts, and we've had experts look at this. It has not been anecdotal, but rather the reality is we do not change the level of service. And I can understand, you live in the community, hear that number, you say, well, it's a lot of cars. I get that. But the reality is it does not affect the level of service in the community. It's been reviewed by the town. The planners recommended it. Everything that we've done here has gone through the process of reviewing it, coming back, playing with it, looking at it, and getting a positive recommendation for tonight. So I just want everybody to understand that, we didn't just show up and shove this down people's throats. This is really something that we've been looking at and talking about for quite some time. Bill talked about the open space, and that's true. Saving over 15 acres on the property. Somebody else can come in and not do that. You could take the front portion and you can knock all the trees down. There is nothing guaranteeing the preservation of the trees on the site. What we've shown here is really what we want to do. I mean, when we get into final design, things will change, but from moving things here and moving things there, but keeping as many trees as possible, adding diversity into the plants and trees on site. Right now, it's kind of fallow. We've talked about this in wetlands commissions from invasive species regarding invasive trees. We're talking about putting in stuff that makes more sense for the community historically in Connecticut, only things that can add to the community and add to the property. We talk about being detrimental to the environment. I don't know what to say. I mean, at the end of the day, we're building energy efficient homes that take less of a footprint. As things get tighter, sprawl is becoming something that people are not asking for, but people still want to live in these communities. Building 4-story elevated luxury apartment communities to the highest Connecticut energy standards, I think is a benefit. We create our communities now with 40% of parking spots that are able to be hooked up for electric cars. We're not paying lip service to all this stuff. We actually are doing it. By doing this, by creating a 4-story building, we're preserving more of the open space. And I just wanted to think about that. If you take up the spot and put in a bunch of houses, it does take up more land. As one of the people that were for this had stated, when you take what we do and what somebody else would do in the houses, you actually are preserving more space. We've already talked about the zone change, so I don't want to get into that. There's one thing I want to say though. I just, on behalf of the experts on our side, the people who've put years into this, gone to school for it and are certified, the idea that somehow they are so-called experts, as somebody stated, I find offense to that. I don't want to get into that, but these people do make their livelihood off of doing this stuff. The outcome is not what everybody wants. I get that, but these people do take pride in what they do, and they can't just say whatever they want. Beyond this, markets have changed. What we are doing in these various communities, a lot of people don't want to own a home anymore. They want to stay in their neighborhood, but they're done owning a home. They don't want to cut the grass. They don't want to fix the roof. I can understand that. What we've done in other communities is we build a new apartment building. People stay within the community. It gives them an option. For some people, maybe some people have to go to assisted living, or maybe just some people don't want to go up steps anymore. We get a lot of people who do that. Furthermore, I know somebody stated young professionals don't want to live in these communities. We get a ton of young professionals. We get a lot of people who don't ever want to own a home. They've watched their parents slave in the yard every weekend, and watch their parents work tirelessly to maintain their home. These people don't want to do that. They just want to go home and they just want to have an apartment. So, I'm kind of on the tail end of that. I think about that. I don't know if I want to own a home, but the reality is that not everybody wants to, because it is a lot of work, and we give them an opportunity to do that. And, when it talks about school children, we don't get a lot. These are 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. We don't have 3-bedroom apartments. Places that we have 3 bedrooms, we do get some kids. But really, these are people that are, hey, they want to have a couple in 1 bedroom or a couple in a 2-bedroom, or somebody wants a They want to have one bedroom for themselves and the other one for an office. So I would state that we really don't get a lot of kids. If we do, it's a handful of them. And at the end of the day, what we provide as far as taxes go far outweigh the services in which we take versus putting 10 homes on a piece of property and paying a fraction of the cost and then having to add kids that are all going to fill into those homes. We really don't do that. We really have a certain clientele that are young professionals, older people, empty nesters who just want another choice in how they live. So with that, I want to say thank you for your time tonight. I'm here to answer any questions, and I want to thank the rest of my team here for putting in some hard effort here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I go to the final rebuttal of the opposition, Renata, if you're there, have you forwarded the petition to the applicant? And if not, can you please at a later date?
No, the petition has not been forwarded yet. We're still looking at whether or not it satisfied the statutory requirement in order for it to affect the way the commission will vote.
Okay, very
so
good.
As soon as I have the final numbers, we will send it through.
Thank you very much, Renata.
As well as, and in addition to that, there is emails that I've been receiving since we closed the office at 4:30 today. So all of those will be also entered into the record. And I will make sure that all of the public testimony is actually posted on the town's website tomorrow as well. So everybody will have the ability to review everything online.
Okay.
That I'm still receiving emails as of like 7 and 8 o'clock tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Renata. Right now, we will go to the final rebuttal by the opposition. If anybody from the opposition would like to have something to say, now's your opportunity. I would ask that you not try to repeat yourself too much, but you do have an opportunity. If there's anybody that would like to speak, please raise your hand. Go right ahead, Eric, with the first.
We have Ala. You can unmute yourself.
Hello. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
So as Mr. Sweeney this is LL Sacre, 14 Coachman Lane. As Mr. Sweeney reminded the commission last time, the legal standard here in Connecticut for a zone change, as I'm sure the commission is aware, is that you must consider the plan of conservation and development in determining this request for a zone change. I'd like to quote the following from the vision statement section of the POCD. Newington will continue to recognize that the quality of life in the community is influenced and enhanced by the non-residential land uses that support the town's grand list. While these uses are essential to a vibrant and economically successful community, changes in zoning districts will be evaluated based on the characteristics of the surrounding area. So the applicant is proposing a residential use for the land, and that would certainly grow the grand list. But that residential use is not a guarantee. Again, what's before the commission today is whether it's appropriate to change from a residential zoning to a PD zoning. And as my neighbors have mentioned, PD zoning opens up the door for all sorts of land uses. I know that the applicant has stated that they plan to use it for a residential purpose, but again, that's not really a guarantee. We've been instructed not to delve too deeply into the plans for what would happen with the land and just focus on the zoning change. And that's what I'm trying to do here today. Furthermore, the POCD mentions in the community character section that one of the ways that we can seek to preserve and enhance the community character is by preserving undeveloped lands that provide visual respite. A considerable amount of the POCD describes the importance of open space. So I would really urge the town to consider some of these other options as well, purchasing the property and preserving it as open space that would be in sync with the stated goals of the POCD, or reach out to an independent independent conservation groups who would be willing to purchase the land for conservation use. And that is all I have for today.
Very good. Thank you. Next.
Next is the phone number ending in 226. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, my name again is Jack Dooley at 17 Cambridge Drive. And I just have one comment. Does A&R Development realize that these two streets that have been discussed, Deming Road, Deming, did it go off? Oh, the Deming Road and Culver Street are bordering on two sides of their property. These are the two busiest streets around, and they say that they're going to have be able to handle the traffic. I'd like to see another traffic study done, not in the dead of winter when the traffic is low and COVID is on, but I'd like to see another independent traffic study done and to deliver completely unbiased results. These results that they're saying they can handle the capacity on the roads. I live there. I face out, I'm in Cambridge, and I face out to this development proposal. And you know what? People are saying, oh, not in my backyard. I'm thinking about the whole town of Newington, especially the southeast corner of Newington, because I live in an apartment, and in 45 days, I can pull up stakes and move to Florida or do whatever I want. But I'm thinking about a lot of homeowners that invested their time and their money and their lives here in Newington, and to have this monstrosity. They say it's going to fit into the neighborhood. It's 4 stories high. Nothing in our neighborhood is 4 stories high. As I mentioned earlier, the elderly housing tower or low-income housing tower in the center of town is a high rise. And I don't think there's another half dozen 4-story buildings in town. And how they want to take this and put it in and ask the commissioners and committee people to accept it is beyond me. And just remember, Tuesday is voting day. I'm going to vote, and I'm going to watch very, very closely to see how the decisions go on these. And my voting will depend on this. I still vehemently oppose this whole project in behalf of not myself, but the whole town of Newington, especially the southeast district of Newington. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, could you just restate your name for the record, please?
Sure. My name again is Jack Dooley, D-O-O-L-E-Y.
Thank you very much, Jack. Next, please.
Phone number ending in 038.
Hello, this is Jenny. Can you turn the volume down? Sorry. This is Jenny Groom at 41A Cambridge Drive. And since you don't want us to repeat, the very first person who did a rebuttal read exactly what I was going to read about the vision statement and the need to consider the surrounding neighborhood before a zoning change. The other thing is the developer and the lawyers are talking about the traffic study, and we only have anecdotal. Well, most of us are not quoting the traffic study because we recognize that it was conducted during the pandemic when people were telecommuting and staying home. So it's not accurate. That is why we are not quoting it. We need an accurate traffic study done later. And the other thing is we need to take into consideration the grades on the road. Where the egress is planned to be, there is a grade that makes it so that you can't have your sight of line, your line sight is blocked and you don't see approaching cars. I know I pull out of Culver at almost the exact same spot, and you have to be very careful. If you don't look very far down the road, you don't see those cars coming because there is a blind spot in the line of vision. But again, it doesn't meet the standard for changing the zoning. Develop it, fine, develop it, but keep within the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mark Pasacantando.
Thank you. Mark Pasacantando, 6 Stagecoach Lane.
I continue to be opposed after hearing the rebuttal. I did find Jason from AR Building's comments somewhat comforting. I thought, quite honestly, a number of points that were made addressed some of the concerns, not all of the concerns that were voiced tonight. Not personal, but I didn't find the same character from some earlier comments. I thought, for example, some of the comments before Jason's were very dismissive. For example, property values going down, we're not qualified. Well, we're a bunch of citizens. We may or may not be qualified. I hold a number of professional credentials. I'm not qualified in real estate, but to quote somebody we all know, come on, man, you don't need a PhD or a license to know the property values are going to go down. It's common sense. Well, that's my, that's my opinion. Concerning, crime, there's no evidence to support it. I quoted FBI statistics. I work with the feds and international law enforcement and have over a number of years. You had a 4-decade police officer on this call. I don't know if he's still on this call. It really commands the attention and respect with somebody with that amount of credentials and experience. Rocky Hill, less than a mile from my house here this evening, my cousin's daughter at gunpoint had her car taken from her 4 months ago in broad daylight on Route 169. I mean, the crime is real, and the density, I think, will attract more crime. So, I guess I just want to show respect to the input. We don't have experts per se, credentialed experts. I'm an expert on Wall Street, but I don't have the other credentials here. But we do have to provide some weight to what the citizens are saying. And I'd ask that going forward, we certainly do that. And I ask the commission to consider these comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one.
Clark Castile, you can unmute yourself.
No.
Clark, you there? Clark, are you there? Go right ahead and speak if you can. Please state your name and address for the record. All right, next one is Vinny. If you'd like to take a next opportunity, please unmute your phone.
Go ahead, Vinny. Clark Castile, can you unmute yourself again, sir?
Hello.
Hi, Clark.
Can you hear me? I appreciate your letting me, I'm a 74-year-old man having problems with this computer. Clark Castile, 167 Connecticut Avenue. Hey, I've been listening to the comments and I'm trying to understand what's going on. And I wanted to it's more of a question than anything else. It seems to me that the developer, working hand in hand with the town, has submitted with his application a site plan that the TP&Z simply can't approve. The one thing that's crystal clear to me in all of this is that you have a regulation for PD zones. No site location shall be approved. I'm going to read it. Unless it has direct access to the Berlin Turnpike or to a public street which directly connects to the Berlin Turnpike. Some of us can still read maps. Culver Street does not connect to the Berlin Turnpike. And the reason I bring this up is that, if the town officials, administrators, can come up with this kind of a plan with the developer, I'm afraid they're capable of doing anything. I don't doubt the developer's intentions right now to build housing. But, you know, there are a lot of things can happen. Surprises happen all the time. Lots and twists and turns. You just can't foresee any of this. That doesn't sound right. But I think I hope you get the point I'm trying to make. I know we're talking about a zone change from residential to PD, but in the application process itself, there's something that you cannot approve. And I'm really worried about what else might be down the road or could be down the road that we can't approve that might be approved because the town says it's okay. Okay, I've said enough. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a second chance.
Thank you very much. Next person, Chris Clancy, if you'd like to unmute.
Yep, Chris Clancy, 130 Lamplighter Lane. Thanks again. I guess just in closing, what it boils down to is I don't think anyone on here that's voicing concerns or opposition is unreasonable or a NIMBY or anything of that sort. I think it's just this is a lot being thrown at the neighborhood and the town. And I guess we're just asking you to go back again to the drawing board, you know, leave the zoning in place, take it back to the drawing board and come up with something a little more suitable that we can, you know, it's a little easier to swallow for us. Again, Deming Farm Drive, a little, you know, 11 house cul-de-sac, beautiful homes. This seems like a similar situation that can be tolerable by the people. If anything needs to go up, I think we would, you know, hope to just meet in the middle with something more along those lines than 4-story apartments that don't seem to fit the rest of the neighborhood. So that's all. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we have Vinny, if you'd like to try and unmute, go right ahead.
I don't know where he went.
Okay. All right. I'd like to make a suggestion to the commissioners. I think that there's a tremendous amount of information and emails. I haven't been able to read all. I don't feel comfortable closing this at this time. I want to be able to digest all this material, reread it, and I might have some additional questions. For instance, I'd like to ask the applicant if it's possible, if for the next meeting, he could give us some newer updated traffic counts for the area, if possible. And the other thing that I'd like to also request is if we could see the different elevations of the property. And at this time, I'm going to open it up to the commissioners and see how they feel and see if they have any questions for the.
Mr. Chairman, before you begin, could I just ask for clarity? I don't understand your second request when you say elevations of the property.
Just the grade levels, which I'm sure Alan has, the grades of the property.
Topography is you're looking for.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
And we do have Mr. Hesketh, who is our traffic engineer, who may be able to answer you immediately as to whether or not there is so-called newer traffic data that's available. I don't know if, rather than to come back and say, I can't provide that to you, it might be good to ask him directly and have him answer that directly right now.
Go right ahead. Absolutely.
Mr. Hesketh, can you address the chairman's question?
Good evening. For the record, Scott Hesketh, traffic engineer. I'm not aware of any counts that are currently available. We could certainly do some updated counts. However, half of the comments you heard this evening was you did a traffic study during a pandemic and the traffic volumes are not reliable. So to obtain additional counts during this pandemic might not be satisfactory to the commission. I will report that what we did in our traffic study was do some sample turning movement counts during this pandemic time to get the directional distribution of traffic through the study area. We then used pre-pandemic counts from the Department of Transportation and from our own files to look at the traffic volumes that existed on local roadways prior to the pandemic, and then distributed that traffic through the roadway network based on the individual turning movement distributions that we observed during the pandemic. So although the study was conducted, the counts were conducted during January of 2021, and the report was written during July of 2021 or finalized at that time, the traffic volume counts which we relied upon were conducted by the Department of Transportation. Their latest counts were conducted during 2016. And we also had counts during 2010, which were conducted by our office. Now, are those are the earliest or latest counts available to us pre-pandemic. So would it have been nice to have been able to do this report not during a pandemic? Absolutely. I wish we could have gotten data. I wish we would have known about this development 24 months ago. And I could have done the counts at that time and given the commission newer data pre-pandemic that they could rely upon. That was not an option to us. So we did our best to create traffic volumes on the roadway network using pre-pandemic counts and try to get traffic volumes, which are what we believe to be reliable traffic volume counts for the area based on the best information that we had. So could we get new counts in the next couple of weeks and submit them to the commission? We certainly could. They would still be counts conducted during a pandemic, and I'm not sure they'd be any better or worse than the counts which are already in the report.
Thank you very much. I have a better understanding of how you did your report than the way you've stated. So now I'd like to just open it up to the other commissioners, if I could. Is there any questions from the commissioners? And like I said, I just don't feel comfortable closing this public hearing yet because I really need to digest everything and read all these emails. And I would like to know from the commissioners how they feel. So I'll open it up and I'm going to go right down the line. Vice Chairman Claffey?
I do want to leave this open. I do are in favor of leaving this open.
Do you have any questions?
Well, right off the bat, just just knowing near the end of this whole section that the traffic study numbers were done pre-pandemic, kind of changes people's minds about things. I think it's a hot topic. I'm not going to belate that, but I want to also remind everyone listening, the 101 people that are still listening to this, that this isn't anything new, meaning a zone change. It's been done on different locations with heavy traffic counts. I bring one up more recently within the past year at Willard and West Hill. There were a lot of discussions, months worth, of changes. So this isn't anything new to us. I want the public to be fully aware that, I've been around since I think 2015, and maybe a few a year come into us. So we don't take any of this lightly. I don't want anyone in the public to think that. There's a lot that goes into this. It is a tricky little area of town. So, to concur with the chairman, some different things I'm thinking now, I wasn't thinking at 6:59 this evening. I looked at things one way. Now I'm kind of getting a different view. I want to, re-drive over there, re-look at the property, understanding that 15 acres is still, going to be trees and land and buffer. We do already have buffer laws or regulations in effect, but I also want to reiterate that again, this is a private entity's land. This is somebody's property. It's not owned by the town. And we have to remember that people have the right to sell their land, and people have the right to come before zoning and ask for differences. So, but I do want to leave this open for more discussion amongst both commissioners and staff and residents. So I appreciate that.
Great.
Thank you.
Great comments, Vice Chairman Claffey. I appreciate it. Commissioner Woods or Commissioner Haggerty, go right ahead.
Thank you. I just want to start up by saying I totally agree that I think we should keep the public hearing open. Thank you, Commissioner Claffey, for stating that zone changes, is something that does happen not necessarily on a regular basis, but it is something that this commission does undertake. And a question for Mr. Hesketh. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. So the traffic data that you ascertained was from January 2021. Is that correct?
Making sure I'm on mute here. Yes, we did sample turning movement counts during January of 2021. That's correct.
All right. My comment on that is that I think January 2021, we were coming out of the second wave. In October 2021, we're really coming out of the third wave. I don't think there's a huge difference from where we are right now from 10 months ago. And so I don't necessarily have a problem with updated traffic counts. More data is never a bad thing, but I don't think there's going to be anything earth-shattering from where we were as a society in January versus where we are now in October. But I don't have a problem with collecting more data. And lastly, is there any way to get some sort of official police comment on the crime impact on luxury apartments? I know that was a big concern of the local residents. So I wasn't sure how that would be possible, and that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask maybe Renata can answer that last question for you.
We can certainly ask. We can ask police department for any data that they have in areas that are considered luxury apartments. Do you have something in mind where we could ask them specifically for areas to look at?
No.
Okay.
I just know people, it kept being stated over and over again that even by the gentleman who was a police officer who had called in, that these types of high density housing attracts crime. And it's just, can that be backed up by police department? Yes, it's really true. Yes, it's somewhat true. No, it's not at all true. Or any data to support that, I guess, either way.
So perhaps because the density is very similar to all of the already housing developments in that area, one of the relevance point would be to review the crime levels at the area of concern. All of that development, as applicant has indicated, has semi same density ratio.
Sure.
So Candlewood, Lime Pliner, all those.
Okay.
Thank you, Renata.
Thank you very much, Renata. Commissioner Woods?
Mr. Chairman, I don't mind speaking, but Commissioner Sobieski and Fox have had their hands up for quite a while. If you wouldn't mind going to them first.
I didn't see them. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You know what? I've run meetings before. Sometimes it's very difficult when you have this many people to see everybody.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sobieski, go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chairman Payne. I have a question for Scott Heskett. I looked at the DOT traffic volume map dated 2018. They had complete counts up there. And the traffic count between Berlin Turnpike, South Junction of Deming, and Candlewick was 8,500 cars, or 8,500 vehicles daily, done in 2018. North of that, between there and Griswold, was 5,600. That was done in 2018 before the pandemic. So I, I don't know where if you were aware that those were available or not. Secondly, I would like to see your turning movements as to what you did out there, how you figured them. Thirdly, and I don't know who did this road comparison between Connecticut Avenue and Culver. They're two different roads, two different elevation type roads. Connecticut Avenue is flat, residential. Culver is basically has rising grades and a lot more development with condominiums and apartments. The other thing that really kind of bothers me, and I'll tell you my background is I retired from the DOT. I worked in traffic, I worked in planning, and I worked in engineering. The thing that bothered me here is that the not getting what I had requested for the week before. I had requested on page 30 that I would like to get a copy of the traffic volume report. I didn't get that. So that bothers me a little bit. The other thing that bothers me is I did get a collision report, which is done by somebody, I'm not sure who, I guess the town or by Renata, which basically I used to use when I was in traffic to determine what causes accidents that create a slosh list, and I don't want to go into that now. But the other thing I do want to say is I want to keep this open. I want to see all the other materials. I would like to see an updated version of the traffic counts. At least try to use the 2018 volumes that are out there that DOT has, which is pre-pandemic. That's pretty much about it. I like I said, get back to this collision analysis. I'll deal with that under. I'll talk to Chairman Payne on the side on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Sobieski. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Commissioner Woods, for mentioning it. I too have questions about traffic and traffic volume, and before I even make a decision, I would want an independent traffic study, including volume, the ability of Culver Street and Deming Street to handle any extra traffic. I'm not too sure of to what standards they were built, but they were built quite a while ago, and I don't know how much more traffic than they had in those days than they expect. I also noted something, and even before Mr. Castell had mentioned it a little earlier this evening, I'd like to know how the developer of these apartments are built. They were going to have Deming Street connect with the Turnpike, or Culver Street connect with the Turnpike, so that you have a direct, so that you can adhere to the regulation. There's much too much to think about. In addition to all the testimony we had tonight, the petition, which we haven't seen yet, and I do not fault anybody for that, except whoever handed it into Renata so late. She has to hand it to the town clerk and make sure everybody is kosher with it. I'd also like to read that, see that petition, and see just how many, if there are any people on that petition that have not testified. And so I definitely want to keep the petition open. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner Fox. I don't think we can supply you with an independent traffic analysis, but I have confidence in the traffic company that the applicant is using. They're highly professional, and I don't see anything wrong with them answering your questions at a later meeting. Is there another commissioner? Did you have something else, Commissioner Fox?
No, well, so be it. I just wanted them to include the road capacity.
Okay.
It's the town highway crews that are going to be maintaining it. So if there's any, going to be any faster deterioration, I think we should know about it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Lenars?
Chairman Payne, may I interrupt? There was a question, just two items, because I had a Commissioner Sobolewski actually asked something from
Yeah,
us.
I was hoping to get through some of these questions, and if you could, go ahead.
I only want to say that we certainly did not, I hope that wasn't directed to us, that Mr. Sobolewski did not get something that he requested. You know, we have the traffic report has been submitted to the planning office. We're happy to work with your town planner to make sure that Mr. Sobieski gets whatever that he requested, but it's inappropriate for us to send anything directly to him. It has to go through your staff. And so I just, whatever we can do to help get him what he's asked for, we're happy to do. So I want to make sure that that's clear.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Chairman, I'd like to respond, please. No, I don't want it directly to me. I had asked that at the meeting. It's in the meeting minutes, Mr. Sweeney. On page, give me a minute here. Okay, on page 31, Commissioner Sobieski, I think we should keep it open to see if the neighbors have anything else to say. Secondly, I would like to get a copy through the town of the traffic volume report.
Okay. All right. It was missed, and we'll have the town planner get that information for you, Commissioner, through the applicant moving forward. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lenars?
Yes, thank you. I agree with the other commissioners that spoke about keeping the meeting open, especially when I heard Renata say that she was receiving emails up until 6, 7, 8 o'clock this evening. I think it's important that if the resident took the time and effort to write these emails, whether they're in favor or against, and submitted them to the town, that we take the necessary time to make sure that they're read by us when they're submitted by the planner or the staff to us. So I agree as well.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Woods?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one of these difficult applications that come in front of us because we've spent a good deal tonight either listening to or people talking about apartments, and really apartments aren't even on the issue here. This is a zone change, right? So it gets very difficult. Obviously, we're looking at a zone change to build apartments, so it complicates it even further. My question is either to Renata, Mr. Chairman, our planner, or to the applicant, because some of the information that was provided to us over the last couple of days from the planner, it's an unusual piece of property with the two zones, PD and residential combined. There is no direct access to the Berlin Turnpike, but by right, they can get access, I believe, from what I'm reading, through Culver Street, by right, go through a residential zone to get to the back. I believe that is correct. And I don't know if Renata wants to speak to it, Mr. Chairman, or if you would want the applicant to, but I'd like to see if I am correct in that assumption.
Once again, that's got a lot to do with the special exception that's coming in next, but I'll ask Renata if she'd like to expand on that.
So with regards to that, we did provide a comment to the applicant, and we are waiting to see how they will respond to it. And they have several options. One of the options would be to redesign their access to either exit onto Deming or enter and exit onto Costello. There are also other options that they may consider and submit to us, and whatever they come up with, we will have to take it at that point. So I don't know how they intend to address this, but so exiting and entering this site, either of Costello or Deming, would right now satisfy our existing regulations if they were to redesign this, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Renata. Anything else, Commissioner Woods?
Yeah, so I just want to be clear. So right now, they do not have the ability to go through Culver Street to enter and exit? Am I clear? Is that what you're saying? Or they do?
So there is a regulation that applies to residential special permits in PD zone that are issued only for residential uses. one of the conditions is to provide a direct access to either Berlin Turnpike or to the street that directly connects with Berlin Turnpike.
Okay.
The
So it would be
culvert directly connects, I'm sorry. I was just going to say Culver Road directly connects to Deming, which then connects to Berlin Turnpike. It does not have a direct connect.
Okay. Okay. But again, where I'm having trouble is this piece of land is going to get developed somehow. And I think if it does, the commission needs to be able to protect the residents the best it can. And I think we do need a little bit of time to go through this to make sure that we can come up with that best plan that satisfies the commission. Hopefully the applicant to move this forward if in fact they continue to do it with the conditions that it comes with, if in fact it gets that far. So, but I don't object to leaving it open.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Havens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of good points have been brought up by both sides tonight. I do concur that we should leave this discussion open, at least for another meeting. A lot of things that I heard that intrigued me. I'd like to read all the emails that I haven't had a chance to get to yet. Some of the traffic study information I'm still digesting. And just want to say I concur to leave it open, and it's incumbent on us to take our time and make sure we get this correct.
Okay, very good. Is there any other commissioners that have a comment? I'll entertain a motion for keeping petition 42-21 open.
I make a motion that we keep petition 42-21 open till the next meeting.
Motion made by Vice Chairman Claffey. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
Seconded by Commissioner Havens.
Mr. Chair, if you could, for the record, just state the date for the next meeting and announce that it will be also done by Zoom.
Yeah, what is the date of our next meeting, Renata?
So the date will be November 10th.
November 10th, and it'll be, so we have a motion on the floor to keep petition 42-21 open until November 10th, and it'll be a Zoom meeting. And I have a second from Commissioner Havens. Noreen, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Claffey?
Yay.
Commissioner Fox?
Yay. Yay.
Commissioner Havens?
Yes.
Commissioner Linares?
Yes.
Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes.
Commissioner Woods?
Yes.
And Commissioner Haggerty? And Chairman Payne?
Yes.
You have an unanimous vote.
Commissioner Haggerty? I didn't hear.
I'm not
Yeah.
seated, am I?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Very good, Noreen. So we have a unanimous.
You have a unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda is the approval of minutes of 10/13/2021. I'll entertain a motion.
So be it. Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made by Commissioner Sobieski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fox. Any corrections in the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any absentee? Okay, motion carries the approval of the minutes. Next thing on is new business. We have a pre-application discussion, site plan modification at 275 Richard Street. Applicant is Michael Morris, owner of EDAC Technologies Corporation. Contact Jin Tao. Applicant here.
Good evening, esteemed board. This is Jin Tao with APT.
I am here representing Michael Morris of CTEC and the owner EDAC Technologies or Hanwha Aerospace. At this given time, I would like to request the board to either, I mean, it's getting kind of late. I'm just wondering if you guys wanted me to make a quick presentation or how you would like to proceed.
Go right ahead, give a quick presentation and then we'll go to the staff. Thank you.
Okay, great. So yes, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. Also, you guys have run a really clean meeting and I want to thank you guys for doing such a great job. The project that I am here to present upon is a proposed ground mount solar array located at the 275 Richard Street, Newington, Connecticut. It is currently a manufacturing facility, and the project is proposing to install ground mount solar panels behind the building in the existing kind of field area that is between the parking lot and the driveway. As such, as Renata has sent to the town, there's no direct regulations that kind of govern this sort of project within the town of Newington's bylaws. And per her request to the board, we think that this proposal should be treated as a site plan modification permit. As such, I am looking for the board's expertise on how they would like to proceed with this project.
Okay, let's open it up to the staff and then we'll go to commissioners for questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so just real quick, as I explained in my memo, this concept, this idea came to us. It's not an application yet, but the applicant would like, or future applicant would like to install these above ground solar panels, and we do not regulate those. Now, on this particular site, the way, and you will see that in a minute if Jen shows the maps, and I think it's even included in the packet, but as you can see, this is at the site that has a manufacturing building. It's kind of behind it. And it is, in my opinion, clearly subordinate accessory use of this property. If I consider it as that, we can look at this and approve and present it to you under the site plan modification process. So the applicant would come to you with a formal application, formal presentation to the commission, and apply for site plan modification of the originally approved site plan. If this use, because it's not regulated, it is not a use that can be considered accessory in this situation, then I do not have any regulations for it, which would then mean that the applicant would have to request either a use variance, step away from the project altogether, or come to us with a proposal for a regulation amendment. So what I'm asking the commission to do tonight is either confirm or tell me that I should not be considering this under section 539 site plan modification, and that really is the commission makes zoning regulations. Therefore, whenever I feel stuck with something and I'm not sure how to interpret it, I bring it to you so you can tell me.
Very good. Let's open it up to the commissioners. How do you feel about this? So Renata, if you do this as a, did you say an accessory use or?
You're muted, Renata.
Yes, I would consider this an accessory use on this site.
So
it occupies certain area of the site. However, these are structures that are mountable, removable. They can be considered temporary, and they're not a building that now has a use that's actually regulated.
Okay, and so then you would treat anything in the future the same way if we get additional interest from someone else, it would be treated the same way then?
provided that there is originally that it's not a vacant site. So what I'm saying, in this instance, I can treat this as an accessory structure, which is an okay use for the site that has like a building and, you know, already primary use. I would not be able to treat that in that manner if they were to come in with this proposal on a vacant site. And it's really up to you to agree or disagree with me.
Okay, very good. Commissioners, any comments from commissioners on how you feel about this? We'll go to Vice Chairman Claffey.
After, as Renata was speaking on the second side of this, I kind of quickly looked up 5.3.9. I think it fits in that because I think this is the old EDAC structure there on Richard.
Yes, it is.
If they were to, 5 years from now, move out of town or change something with the building, these things are removable. Not that it would happen. It's just that they can remove it and then say, oh, we're going to put a whole new addition on this building and we're going to put them on the roof. So I think it is an avenue with the site plan modification to use what Renata is saying. I think some of these are case by case, it almost gets classified as a special permit. I use that word very lightly, but it is kind of like that where, at least they're coming to ask us for some guidance. They want to do this. So I'm for it in that section. I do have a little concern with, I used to live right across the street in the condo or the apartment. Well, it was a condo at Richard Street. Didn't really see this building much. I literally lived directly across in that building right there that faces this building. And, they have some nice buffering, some nice frontage, and you don't see much activity over there. Now, granted, that was many years ago, about a half a dozen years ago, I lived over there. But, I am a little concerned with some of the buffering on each side. But again, we have a big box store on one side and then, H.O. Penn on the other, which are also, when I lived there, were great, people to look across the street. So I do think we need to take these as they come and at pieces and try to make them fit into somewhere in our zoning without going through a complete very lengthy change to the zoning regs. So I'm in favor of something like this per the 539 stipulation.
Okay, thank you very much, Vice Chairman Claffey. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to agree with your Vice Chairman. He is a little quicker than I am at looking up regulations. But it does fit right in. Ground mounted, it can be removed if necessary. As far as Commissioner Claffey's concern about buffering, we can always deliberate that when it comes before us. Yeah, but I like the idea. My solar panels are on the roof, but this is a lot different. I think if we do right by this, if we do it right, we'll probably have some more applications for solar arrays. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Sobieski.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I like the idea. I think it's about time we start looking at maybe some type of regulations. I agree with both Commissioner Fox and Commissioner Claffey that it does fit right in as long as the buffering is okay. But I think it's about time we start looking for the future, and this seems to be the wave of the future. So I think that we need to maybe do some regulations at some point in time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Gill?
Yeah, just a couple considerations. It seems very close to the building. Is there any way they could look at shifting in everything south so that there's more room between the building and these the solar panels?
I'm sure that's something that we could discuss if they bring in the plan. This is just conceptual, whether or not do you agree with having it fall under the 5.39 as an accessory use?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And I'll have the applicant speak in a minute to answer your question, Commissioner Gill. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Havens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From what I'm seeing, I think it does fall under the use illustrated in 5.3.9. As far as long-term regulations going forward, if we choose to go that avenue, the only other place I've seen large arrays like this is over by Church and Rowley Street. I can't remember the name of the facility that's over there, but they have quite a large bit over there. I think that's just over the line in Berlin. Maybe we could touch base with the Berlin town planner and see what they're doing for regulations. Just a thought.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Thoughts? Is the applicant, Jintal, would you like to answer any questions, or do you have something else you'd like to add?
No, thank you. Yes and no. Thank you, commissioners, for the approval or the good feedback on being able to present this to the town as a site plan modification. To help with kind of the future meeting, the panels themselves are going to be, the energy generated from the panels themselves will be servicing the building, the manufacturing building as it stands today. So it should definitely fall under the accessory use for this parcel. In terms of Commissioner Gill's comment of the closeness of the panels to the building, the buffers, the original location for the design of this system and the facility footprint, we were conscious of the natural buffer of the trees to the south. Sorry, this is page north on the, this is north and then this is south on the page. So if we look at kind of the overview, and I'd be happy to get into more detail when we do present this fully to the board and the commission. We were hoping to keep all of the panels in existing field and do as little of tree clearing as possible to the south. The only tree clearing that is being proposed here is actually from a shading perspective, from a north-south sun angle to the array itself. Otherwise, if we were to shift the facility further south, we would have to increase our footprint in the tree clearing, as well as potentially impacting this wetland buffer that of the wetland system to the south of our property, which we were very conscious of not disturbing that 100-foot upland review area.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to go into that in more detail in the actual application.
Okay, thank you very much. Renata, do you need a formal vote on this, or is it just a?
No, I don't. I think I understood that everybody agrees with me, which is great, and the applicant now can proceed and file an application.
Okay, very good. I think that's, I think everybody is in agreement. Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, our next thing on the agenda for new business is a discussion on adding cannabis-related uses in additional zoning districts. So I'll turn that over to Renata.
1 second.
And
oh, go ahead, Commissioner
I
Clausen.
just want to thank Jin Tao for presenting, and he'll get in touch with Renata, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
So I will keep this really quick. When at the last meeting or the ones before the last, the commission approved certain regulations as they apply to the cannabis growing and cannabis retail in town of Newington. And at that time, we limited these actions to 2 specific zoning districts. As I had indicated last time, there is some interest in particular in retail sites that are not on Berlin Turnpike zone, but are at Berlin Turnpike. And with that in mind, I asked to talk to the commission and see if you would be interested in considering an expansion of the zoning districts where we allow at least retail. And also let me know if you would like me to look further into the growing aspect of it. I am wondering if we could perhaps propose this for Berlin Turnpike. Actually, if we could propose this for the entire PD zone, the commission may want to consider either that, or you may want to consider perhaps an overlay zone that is just along the Berlin Turnpike. I think if I come to you with official application that proposes this in entire PD zone, then you can scale back if you wish, rather than me proposing a specific overlay that I think it's okay now, but then perhaps the commission would like to expand and we have to go through the process again, because once I advertise, once we go into these deliberations, I don't really have the liberty to make anything bigger, right? So at this time, I would like to ask you if you're interested that I propose some added retail and hybrid along the PD zone. And then once we enter the discussions about that, we can further consider whether that should be limited or left for the entire PD. Now, if you look on the map, the PD goes by Berlin Turnpike. There are also significant areas along Fenn Road, and there is an area on Hartford Road. So when James Street, everything that's bright red on the map,
Renata,
as well as Keeney manufacturing.
You didn't want to consider just doing the Berlin Turnpike for Berlin Turnpike and PD along the Berlin Turnpike? Is that one consideration too?
So couple of things that I was keeping in mind was perhaps to allow it as an overlay on Berlin Turnpike. So take PD zone and say so many feet from Berlin Turnpike in, this kind of use is allowed. I think if I come to you with the whole PD zone, then you can consider whether the whole zoning district is okay or whether we would limit that, and then how big of an overlay is an appropriate distance to go with this.
Okay. All right. We'll open it up to commissioners. What are your thoughts? Now, would you bring this to us informally first, Renata? Or
I'm having inquiries right now. I think some people may be interested in coming before you for approvals on this fairly soon. I'd prefer to do an official application once we are in that process, because this is petitioned by the town. We're not bound by statutory timeframes with regards to how long we can have hearings open or any of that stuff. So I think in a interest of expediency, I would make a formal proposal, but I'm disclaiming it that, I don't myself have a good idea as to, if we do an overlay, how big an overlay should it be? And I would like to talk to you about that. So.
Okay. All right, let's go to the commissioners. Commissioner Sobieski, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Payne, or Chairman Payne. I would like to see all the zones on the Berlin Turnpike open to it. I think we do have a lot of retail stores that are vacant there. It would be a good boost. Plus the fact that, we have easy access to that area. Just my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with Commissioner Sobieski. There are a number of areas of vacant buildings and areas where on the turnpike where I think this cannabis or hybrid facilities can go. And I also would like to explore the idea of an overlay zone. So I would like to see the plan of make a couple of proposals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Commissioner Clover.
I think I brought this up when we were going through this, so I do feel that it should be in the same areas where we allow vape shops, where we allow cigarette sales. As I said in the beginning, you can't just say that you can only buy cannabis in certain parts of a town. That to me is discriminatory. When we can sell liquor in certain spots across different parts of town, we can sell cigarettes and vaping shops in different parts of town. So I'd like it to coincide with those same regulations. I think it's a sale that is to or under certain state guidelines, and some of those guidelines include liquor, and also cigarettes and vaping, et cetera. So I don't think we just put it on the Berlin Turnpike. I think you kind of have to put it in where that type of sale of product fits into your zoning. If it's a retail sale or just like a vape shop, years ago, I could go into downtown Newington into the vape shop, or I could go on the Berlin Turnpike to the current vape shop that's there. I think the one in downtown Newington closed, but so it's just something we have to look at for the whole town, and where you can sell certain things, should be able to sell it. You shouldn't just be able to put it only on one road in town.
Okay.
That defeats the purpose.
Very good. Thank you for your comments, Vice Chairman. Renata, did you have something else that you'd like to add?
So, Mr. Claffey, what you're talking about is essentially every commercial district, every business district in town.
Yes. Yeah, if you're able.
Okay. Just to clarify, no, this was just clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, where it fits with current things under the same, I do clarify that under the same guidelines of where cannabis sales fits with the vaping, smoking, tobacco sales, liquor sales, et cetera. They all kind of, if I'm not wrong, they all kind of fit into that. It has to fit in a certain area by distance to schools, place of worship, et cetera, if I'm not wrong, correct?
Well, no, the town may enact regulations that set these distances. So by state statute, there is no distance requirement per se.
So
there is one requirement, and that is that these establishments must be approved. Probably the best understanding of that language, which by the way is confusing and in all kinds of different directions. But the best that I understand it is the community needs to have a special permit regulation for it. So where a retail of cigarettes could be a permitted use as a right,
okay,
we would require perhaps special permit. But if we are considering it for all commercial zones, then we can start conversation from that point and scale down.
Okay, I can live with that. Thank you, Renata.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions or suggestions for Renata? Comments? Okay. Why don't you put something together, Renata, for us and present it to us whenever you're ready.
I shall do that at my earliest convenience.
Okay. Very good. Let's see here. Okay, no old business, no petitions for public hearing scheduling, town planners report. If you have anything else.
You're muted, Renata.
So you all have future agenda, which will be modified to add the Culver Street proposal. I'm also informing you that the applicant has agreed on 30-day extension to the timeline that the commission has to open a public hearing on the special permit on Culver Street, as well as on the site plan for that application. So we have an extension at this point on those two applications. Now, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of planning projects, and we're talking a lot about regulation changes, but one that I've been kind of consistently working on was continuation of that, looking into the business zone, B zones, essentially. So I presented to you the B zone, and then Eric Hinckley, the tax assessor, and myself had met and discussed some proposed language for business town center zone and business turnpike zone. As I'm working on that, soon enough, as soon as we come down with actual proposals before us, I'll be coming to you with those for unofficial review before, I want to work on all business zones at once. I want to work one, another one, and then in the end, make one proposal where we have looked at all of the B zones together. So that's the progress on that one. I'm also working with the grant administrator that town has contracted with. And another area that I constantly am a little bit working on is that Newington Junction project. So one of the things that we will be applying for a threefold grant kind of amenities. One grant will be for historic preservation, specifically of buildings that the town owned. And right now we're looking at Calogetti House and Kelsey House. I'm also talking with her, and she is looking into what grants we can get to develop a little bit of destination area in Newington Junction that is focused on historic preservation of that area. So what we are looking at is creation of a pedestrian loop that would preferably originate at the train station. We would have maps and signage directing people to walk down West Hill, to walk down Chapman, to walk down Willard, to intersection with Stoddard. And in front of, if I get my wish, in front of all these historic homes and town properties, we would have a freestanding signage that talks about these properties, that explains them, says when they were built, gives a little bit of narrative and sense to it. I feel that something like that could be something that, we have children do the children tours, the Historic Society can have tours. It can be a place that is destination, a place that perhaps will incentivize formation of some sort of pedestrian-friendly businesses in that area, where we could get like a coffee shop or something along those lines that is not, a drive-through necessarily. I also believe that that would be a good way to help property owners of those homes elevate a little bit value of their houses without regulating them. So this is not something where I'm thinking we're talking about having a local regulation that will mandate you have to have these kind of windows. But if the house is signed and described at the front lawn and people are like walking and taking pictures and, reading that signage, I think that will be incentive, a sense of pride for the property owners that some of them really maintain those homes like in a beautiful, beautiful shape too. And then third part of that area there is we're also looking into getting a grant to extend a multi-purpose trail from where it terminates at Newington Junction to connect with Trout Brook Trail in West Hartford, either in Elmville or by South Quaker Lane. So this is a planning study that I'm looking at where I would like to have somebody hired who can evaluate the best route to go to connect. There are some right-of-way issues along the fast track itself, which is probably why that multi-purpose trail never actually continued that way. But there could be some options to, go on the street, take a sidewalk for a while, then like maybe go by Piper Brook or something like that. So those are a couple of projects I've been quite involved in and excited about, to be honest with you. I think getting this secure for Newington Junction will then bring us much closer to talks about potential development out there. Because once we have an asset that we were able to promote, preserve, advertise, make us into a town that celebrates its past and welcomes its future, I think that would help us with then attracting better design for perhaps a TOD district in the future in that area. So that's my report.
Okay. Very good, Renata. Thank you. Anything else? That's it? Okay. Next thing's under communication. As you can see, there's an anonymous letter. Let me fill you in.
Chairman Payne, I have a question for Renata, please.
Certainly. Go ahead, Commissioner Sobieski.
Renata, are you, when you were talking about the historic district with the preservation plaques and stuff, are you talking what they did in Old Weathersfield, for instance? Because my aunt used to live there, and I know every time she had to do something, she had to go before the historical commission to make the changes or repair. And just to give you an example, I don't want to bring this out, keep this going too long, but she had a slate roof and she wanted to change it to asphalt. She couldn't. She had to get the slate repaired. So that's what I'm asking you. Are you doing something like that? Thank you.
No, right now through this grant, I'm actually trying to do everything but that. What my main objective is, having historic property is expensive. Adding to that requirements that demand that you have certain kind of windows, certain kind of doors, makes it more expensive. So I really do not want to do that sort of thing. What I'm trying to get through this grant is that these homes and properties are promoted so that their value hopefully increases, and that incentivizes property owners to actually then maintain the historic windows and historic roof, because their property is visited, their property's value went from $200,000 to like $350 or something like that, and they want to retain that. Once you take away the historic aspects, the signs go away. So that's if I am right about people's nature and market forces, this could really be something that is a carrot rather than a stick approach, and hopefully it will work.
Okay. Any other questions, or are you all set, Commissioner?
No, thank you. I'm all set. I was just, like I said, I know my aunt had a lot of problems trying to get stuff repaired over there. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, the Weathersfield one is very restrictive. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is communications. As I was saying, I received this anonymous letter. Actually, this was an anonymous letter that was given to Mr. Borgeson, and he gave it to me, and he claimed that there was a violation down the street, and he wanted me to go down there and shut the business down. I told him that myself as chairman or any of the commissioners, we don't have the power to do that. So I turned this over to the staff, and I asked them to look into this matter. It's disappointing that there's political statements and accusations in here, and it doesn't thrill me. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our zoning enforcement officer. That's what I did. I took this letter because I don't have the power to shut a business down. It's not appropriate. We have staff that looks into that. So I turn this over to Eric, and maybe Eric could give us a report on this, please, and then we'll go to comments if there is any.
So yes, when you gave it to me, I did go out there and go by the residence. Actually drove the street with the town manager. We stopped at the house. There were no outward signs of a business being run at the time. There was no signs on the property. There was no commercial vehicles in the front yard. There was a pickup truck. There was no placards on the truck. The backyard, the rear yard was fenced. Really couldn't see anything. So there was no outward signs of any kind of business. I got back to the office. I did look into the file, and in January of 2020, the prior zoning officer received a complaint of blight at that address. He deemed it as not a blight issue, but a zoning issue. There was no copy of a complaint, so I don't know how he received it, whether it was by email or by phone. I have no idea. So he did inspect it in January of 2020 and sent a notice to the property owner in February. And he and the property owner at that time discussed workarounds to get the commercial equipment behind a fence in the backyard. And the equipment was moved by the end of February. And the prior zoning officer marked it as progress towards compliance, and there's nothing else in the file. So he must have been satisfied at that time in February of 2020. And what I saw on October 20th was no evidence of any business being run at that time.
Very good, Eric. At the same time that this came up, it was brought to my attention that back in October of 2020, this commission had a discussion of commercial vehicle zoning changes that it wanted to make. And that was when Craig Minor was here, and it was brought to the point where it had to go to CROG. And unfortunately, when we transferred from Craig Minor over to Renata, Renata had not received anything from Craig concerning this. So it got lost. If some of the commissioners remember, we had a lengthy discussion about trucks parked in driveways and things like that to help the zoning enforcement officer. So I would ask Renata or Eric if you could dig up the minutes of that, and if we could get that on the agenda and relook at that for the commissioners. At this point now, I'll open it up for any questions or comments from the commissioners. Okay, there's no questions.
You got a few. We got Stephen Woods and
Oh,
Dave.
okay, there. Thank you very much. Commissioner Woods, go right ahead.
He's muted.
You're muted, Steve.
Yeah, I see a list of who's on and who's on second, so it hides it. Mr. Chairman, I've been on this board now, I think, for going on 5 years. And 4 of those years, I believe now, are underneath your leadership. I think you've done an excellent job. I think you've taken politics out of this board, where I think it has been in the past. This is, from what I can see, and being an active participant in it, pretty bipartisan board. I don't remember the last time that we even had partisan issues on this board. And that is a credit to you and your leadership on this. I'm a little disappointed in this letter. This letter is so vague. I give our zoning enforcement officer some credit to even for the work that it took just to figure out what this letter is talking about, to try to figure out where to go, because there isn't anything clear in it. But again, I'm a firm believer in blame can fall where it needs to fall, but it does not need to fall on your shoulders. Mr. Payne, you've done an excellent job here. It has been a pleasure serving with you on this committee, and I look forward to continue serving on this commission with you. We've worked very well together, and we do not agree on everything, but we respect each other's opinions and we listen to each other. And I expect no less from you or from me. And I think all the commissioners here respect you greatly for your leadership on this. And again, I am proud to say that I'm a member of this commission under your leadership.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Woods. I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Commissioner Lenars?
Yes. I don't know why Commissioner Woods had to steal my thunder right there, but I'm going to echo his thoughts as well. I have to apologize to Eric that he even had to go out and waste efforts to address something like this that holds no merits when it's submitted anonymously like that. If someone had a concern, which people do all the time within our town, they're more than happy to submit some sort of complaint or something, and then it will get taken care of. But to suggest that something's been done politically in this town, I knew members of this commission that I will address as Mr. Fox and Mr. Woods, because I've known them long before, when I was growing up in this town, before they were commissioners. So they're good people. There's Democrats on this board, there's Republicans, and sometimes you probably can't figure out who's who, which is an attribute to all the people serving on this board. When I first sat on the board, I don't know how many years ago it was, in my first stint, I sat between Carol Annis and Kathy Hall. And I learned from the both of them, and they both treated me as not the new guy, but someone that was trying to help just like they were, and they treated me fair. And I learned from both of them, and I thank both of them for helping me along the way years and years ago. So to suggest that this board is politically driven is a little bit of an insult, and I don't like that. I think everyone at hand has no problem sharing their opinion to the chairman about what's going on, whether it be Stanley, Mr. Fox, Commissioner Fox, I should say, Commissioner Woods, anybody on either side. We disagree. We can put our opinions out there, but we don't let it affect how we think of each other as Newington residents. So we're all doing this to try to help the town and try to help out and do our best we could. So I thought it's a little shoddy to even address that letter, but I don't blame you for wanting to clear the record for that. So thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawrence. Commissioner Claffey, did you have something?
Yeah, I wished that the 120 people were still on to really hear this, because this is what this commission's about. Unfortunately, there's only 32 people on right now, and that's a high number for a meeting. So, pat our backs, because, we do disagree. We do listen to people's opinions, and we make we make decisions based on that. And, to Commissioner Wood's point, he is 100% correct of how this commission gets run on a day-to-day basis. It's not just every other Wednesday or every third Wednesday in a 5-week month. It's every week or every day the chairman or the planner or the CEO is getting called, or a letter, et cetera. So it's every day we deal with it. But he couldn't be put any better, Commissioner Woods. You nailed it right on the head. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Claffey. Commissioner Sobieski.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, you and I don't always agree on everything, but I have not seen any political forte here at all. I don't think that any anonymous letter really should have had this much conversation, in my opinion. I'll be honest with you, Dominic, I don't remember going over that thing on the business, but it could very well have been, because there was a lot of zoning changes we were looking at with the trucks and stuff, because the town has changed to a more of a blue collar town than a white collar, and people do take the trucks home and stuff. And I seem to remember there was a big forte about signs and plaques on trucks. So I just want to echo, unfortunately, both Woods, Commissioner Woods and Commissioner Lenara stole some of my thunder. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Sobieski. Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner Linares, for that making me look so old, but that's okay. And, I have known you since you were growing up 2 doors down, but that's okay. I'm very, very glad to have you back as a commissioner.
Thank you.
My first stint with this commission was in the 20th century. Late 90s, for about 2 terms, took a little time off, and then back a few years ago. And no matter who it is, Dominic Payne, Frank Aida, he should rest in peace, Vinnie Camilli, Kathy Hall. We've always been apolitical, nonpartisan, and that's the way it should be for a commission like this. So that much I'll say. And before I forget, I was going to say this under commissioner remarks, but since Commissioner Linares mentioned Counselor Annis and how he sat right next to her. And I envy you because you had a good mentor there. I want to thank Carol for all these years that she's been our liaison with the town council. She has been an excellent liaison. She's always there and she's always, keeping us, kind of keeping us straight as far as the council is concerned. This will be her last meeting as a liaison because she's will be no longer in the council. So Carol, I want to thank you and good luck. Not that we won't see you again. I'm sure you'll be involved, but thank you very much, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fox. Okay, Commissioner Havens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody else has said everything so eloquently. I know that we do get anonymous tips into the TPZ office. That's one thing, but for it to come in this way is just distasteful. To include the other things in it, I won't even comment. I find it that nauseating. And back to the commercial trucks of October a year ago, I do remember discussing it because we had about a 35 or 40-minute discussion on different types of beepers, the reverse alarms that some of the trucks had. So I do remember discussing it. I don't think we ever came to a definitive conclusion on that, though.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner Havens. And Eric Hinckley, go right ahead.
The only thing I did forget to mention was the address in the letter is a non-existent address as well. Just
yeah, well, they got the address on.
Yeah.
It was really 74.
Correct.
Yep.
But I just figured I'd point that out.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Next thing on the agenda is public participation. So I'll open it up to public participation. If there is within Zoom application, raise your hand if you'd like to participate during public participation. If calling into Zoom meeting by telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand to be recognized, or *6 when recognized to speak by telephone. State your name and address for the record. Let me just get back in and see if
I don't see anyone with their hand raised at the moment, Dominic.
Okay. Okay. Very
One hand up.
good.
Counselor Annis has her hand up.
Yes.
Okay, go right ahead, Counselor.
Thank you. I was just going to say, and Mike said it, that this is my last meeting as the liaison after 6 years from the council. But before that, I was a member of TPZ for 7 years. So it's going to be very difficult being involved for 12 years following this along to have this void. So as Dave has said, he wants me back on, but I'm going on to bigger and better things. But I wish everybody good luck in the coming months, especially with this Culver Street. It's going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out. But thank you for making me feel as a liaison part of your commission. And I'll see you guys in the audience. Thank you.
Carol, thank you very much for all the years of service on the council, and absolutely all the years on the town planning and zoning. You added a tremendous amount of value to the commission and to this town. And I don't think that this will be your last meeting, because I'm sure you'll be attending our meetings and advising us or contributing tremendously to our meetings. So I greatly appreciate all the work you've done over the years and your volunteerism throughout the town. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Since there's no other public comments, I'll go to remarks by commissioners. And if there's no other remarks from commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sobieski, make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Commissioner Sobieski and seconded by Commissioner Fox. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. I want to thank everybody very much and good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Good night.
Bob.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks,
Sleep
James.
tight.
Yep. Thank you, James.